And Mr. Bruce, could you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, this is the Planning and Zoning Board. It's a local and also the local planning agency. It's an advisory board which makes recommendations to the county commissioners who will make the final decision on all these items. Items G4, G6, G8, G10, G11 are all LPA items. Items on today's agenda will be heard by the county commission on July 11th at 5 p.m. When a motion ends in any kind of a split vote, a roll call vote may be taken to ensure accuracy. As a reminder, each member who makes a motion or a second needs to turn their microphone on so that your voice is on the record. Speakers for public comment on any agenda items will be given 3 minutes. At this time, if any board member has had any ex parte communication regarding any application, please disclose so now. All right, seeing that, I need a motion for approval of the P&Z minutes from April 15th, 2024.
Move for approval.
Second.
Okay, got a motion by Deb, a second by Bruce. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passed unanimously. I just want to note, too, we're going to be moving item 14 to the last item on the agenda.
Mr. Chair, you said item G14?
Yes.
Okay.
Ms. Rezanka, where did you go? You want to come up to the podium, and you're talking about items G5 and G6?
Good afternoon, Chairman Wadsworth, members of the Planning and Zoning Board. Kim Rezanka on behalf of Aaron Reninger, items 5 and 6. We are requesting to continue this to the P&Z of August 12th, time certain. We recently learned of some engineering issues that we want to resolve, and also we've had quite a bit of public comment, so we want to take time to talk with the residents if we can get them together. I don't know that we can satisfy their concerns, but because there is some concerns, we want to take the time to meet with them.
All right, do we need to take a vote on that to table it until the 12th?
Yes.
Can I get a motion on that?
I'll make that motion.
That's item G5 and G6.
Oh, for G5 and G6 to be tabled to the August P&Z.
All right, we got a motion by Deb, a second by John. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you, sir.
That passed unanimously. Ms. Kim, items G5 and G6, could you just say a little quick, does anyone in the audience, are y'all aware of item G5 or G6? Yes. All those that's part of that, can you please stand up? Okay, that just got moved now, hopefully to the August 12th meeting.
If it doesn't go to that date, we'll be notified ahead of time, is that correct?
Yes. So y'all are welcome to leave because we're not even going to get on that item. Brian, I told you.
See, your worries are over. Call your wife, tell her you'll be home for dinner.
Well.
About halfway. Still got a
Now, as they're leaving, hello, if everyone could, if we could kind of quiet down there as you're going, but are y'all here for item G2? Okay, so can we see those hands again for item G2? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we have 22 people approximately. If I missed one, I'm sorry. What we try to do to expedite the meeting, do y'all have one person that you would like to speak on that item? Well, the reason I'm asking is we don't want to hear it 3 times about traffic, or we don't want to hear 3 times about it's going to devalue our house. We try to pick one person, because I give you 3 minutes each to speak. And after 3 minutes, respectfully, you're going to have to walk away. So if you want to pick one person or 2 person, I'll split the time with those people so that you can say why you do not want it or why you do want it. It just kind of expedites the meeting. Do you want to pick 1 or 2 people to speak?
3.
All right, we had approximately 22 people. So 3 minutes a person, that's 66 minutes. That's an hour to speak.
3. Okay, so that's 20 minutes a person.
So you get,
Give him 15.
Okay.
but you all have the same concerns, though, looking at all our papers up here.
Respectfully, if we could kind of talk a moment amongst ourselves, because
Well,
it
if you,
doesn't seem like everyone is agreement.
that's fine. I'll tell you what, all the people involved with item G2, if y'all could step out to the lobby outside, and then that way we could get going. And when you come back, I'll bring it back up.
Up to you.
Mr. Chair, if I can just interject for a second, what you can do is put item G2 last on the agenda, and that way you'll give them time.
Can't do that.
Okay.
So all those involved with items G2, if you don't mind going to the lobby and maybe pick, now, we will hear everyone's opinion if you want that. But we're just trying to do this to make it quicker. So if y'all could take that outside, we could start the meeting. Pretty please. And we will pick up with item G1.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item G1, Suzanne Cook requests a conditional use permit for a guest house in an RU 1-13 single-family residential zoning classification. Application number is 24Z00007. Tax account number is 2431745, located in District 2. This item was continued from the April 15th, 2024 P&Z meeting. There are conditions related to a guest house. Those 5 items are listed in the agenda report. With that, if you remember that there was some confusion by the applicant of whether this said guest house would be allowed to be rented out, and the applicant has provided an email saying that the guest house would not be rented out per what the code requires.
Okay, and are you the applicant, ma'am, or is he?
I am.
And if we could get that microphone closer to you, and if you could state your name and address for the record?
Yeah. My name is Suzanne K. Cook. I live at 1270 North Banana River Drive on Merritt Island, Florida.
Okay. And a little bit about what you're wanting to do with this zoning change.
What I wanted to do was to build a separate little house for myself, and when I want to get away from my children that live with me.
Standing right here, right?
I need a quick motion on that one. All the
And yet they're close enough that if something happens to me, they can check on me.
Yes,
But
ma'am.
I'm a little tired after 13 years, and sometimes I don't agree with what they do or say to me. So it's easier to run away and do something else. And rather than rent a motel room, it's easier. And we do have the space there.
Okay, if you could stay right there. Is there anyone in the audience want to speak for or against this item? That's really good news.
I know.
All right, seeing that, I bring it back to the board. Do we have any questions for the applicant?
I have a question for staff.
Okay.
I don't have a problem with the applicant or anything else. In fact, I'd probably motion for approval. But my question for staff is the difference between a conditional use permit for zoning and a builder's development plan. Is one the conditional use permit to alter the existing zoning requirement? And if you can explain.
Sure, I'm going to try to do the short version of it, Mr.
Short's good.
Sullivan. A conditional use, our zoning code is set up to allow for permitted uses, uses permitted with conditions, and then uses that are permitted with a CUP. A guest house, in this instance, is a CUP in this zoning district. A BDP, which is a binding development plan, is a voluntary signed agreement between the applicant and the board to put conditions on the property in support of the board granting the zoning of the property.
Thank you.
They're very
Excellent.
similar but different.
That's kind of what I was under the impression it was. Now, with a builder's development plan, that goes when the property owner transfers as well. What about the conditional use permit? Does that transfer, or is it only permitted to the applicant?
The CUP is only for the applicant.
Okay, all right, thank you. I'd like to make a motion for approval
No,
on G1.
I got a question.
All right, 1 second on the motion. Got a question by John.
Yes.
Well, don't we have
ma'am,
to second it to have discussion? Just a point of order. Right, we have to have second to have discussion. So I'll second the motion so John can have discussion.
Thank you very much. Ma'am, you were here back in April, and you had stated that you wanted to have this building for Airbnb. Now you're coming back and you're telling us you want it for your family members?
What I said was that if my money situation went down, that I might have to. But if that's the case, then I'll sell the house. A house is not important to me.
Okay.
If I can't afford the house, I'll sell it.
All right, but this
But-
small building that you want to put on your property, who's going to be using it?
I will,
You're going to live there?
yes.
And how are you going to eat? I mean, there's no kitchen in there,
Yes,
according...
there is.
Well, there can't be a kitchen, but
That's right.
there can be a sink, and her family's going to take care of her. She's got her son and her daughter-in-law, so they'll be able to prepare her meals for her.
I'm confused.
I will have a microwave.
I mean, I'd like to help you out, but I
Yeah,
need to know what you're going to do. And
I will
it
have
seemed...
a microwave. I'm not going to cook. Heck, I'm 86 years old.
Congratulations. You look good. I don't know what to do about this.
Well, we've got a motion and we got a second.
Yeah, I know, but I'm still
Do we have any other
discussing.
questions?
I'm still discussing.
Okay.
Well, rental would be a violation of the conditional use. So
I
that's a
understand that,
stipulation.
yes.
And then how she eats is up to her.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's up to this board.
I have the floor, excuse me. I don't know, I just don't like hearing different stories. And I'd like to get to the truth and see what
Okay.
you're actually going to do there. And if you're going to live there in that house, fine, I have no problem with that. But if you rent it out to either your relatives or to others,
If I don't want to rent out to relatives, believe me. We have enough relatives that come. As a matter of fact, we had somebody that just left about a week ago from California. They came to watch the rockets going up. Didn't see it because it didn't go up. But the fact of the matter is, we do have, my daughter-in-law is from Nicaragua. So we have a lot of South Americans and Central Americans that come to visit, which is okay, but they visit. We don't charge them.
would they be staying in the main house or in the new house?
Probably in the main house. If I'm in the small house, the small little place, I'm going to they can stay in the house. But I want to get away from that.
Okay. I just don't want your neighbors complaining that you're renting it out, and then code enforcement has to come out and
My
put the
neighbor-
kibosh on you.
My neighbor, I take care of the area from the road all the way down to the canal, and that's the church. And I maintain that all the time. I'm out there weeding all the time. My other neighbor, they're good fishing friends. They're not concerned. Across the street, we have a nursing home that I don't think has anybody in it, and the school. And they're not a problem.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we got a motion by Robert, got a second by Bruce. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passed unanimously.
Thank you.
All
I
right,
was gonna
thank you,
abstain.
ma'am.
Okay.
Okay, for item G2, did we pick 3 people, or do we all want to speak?
We have at least 3, maybe more. We don't cover what needs to be covered. So that's 9
Okay.
minutes.
And so is 15 minutes a person good enough?
No, 3 minutes is fine.
3 minutes, that's even.
I like how you talk. We can go to 2 minutes if we have to. Okay,
Plus one.
well, we need to read it into the agenda here. Item G2, please.
Good afternoon. Item G2, Frank Mastroianni requests a change of zoning classification from BU1 and RU210 to PUD under application number 23 PUD 000001, tax account number 2600118 in District 2.
Okay, is the applicant here? And if you could state your name and address for the record, please, sir.
Sure. Hello, board members. Chris Bertner, Mill Creek Residential, MCRT Investments, LLC, 1650 North Mills Avenue, Orlando, Florida. My name is Chris Bertner. As I just said, I'm a real estate developer, and I work with a company called Mill Creek Residential. Mill Creek is a national apartment development company, and we really focus and specialize in building luxury, market rate, apartment communities in really the best locations, the best submarkets, and the best markets around the United States. Although you just heard that I live in Orlando today, I'm actually from Vieira and grew up here. My parents live here, which is why this project is so important to me and special to me. Our proposed business plan includes a 252-home luxury market rate apartment rental community that really seeks to maximize the value of the waterfront along the Indian River that our property benefits from, and what we think provides a great amenity for our potential and future renters, their guests, and their families. You're going to hear from several members of our consultant team today, including Jake Wise, Landon Shear, and Susan Hall, who are here with me. But generally speaking, we are requesting a rezoning to PD for the property, which will bring the property consistent with what's allowed under the comprehensive plan, and more particularly remove a 6-unit per acre density cap that was put in place, I believe, in the 1980s. And so with that, I will turn it over to our consultant team, Jake, Susan, and I think we have a presentation here that hopefully we can project to the screen.
And the same thing, ma'am, if you could state your name and address for the record.
Yes, good afternoon, Chairman Wadsworth. I'm Susan Hall, landscape architect, and I'm working with the Madura team for this project. Okay, where's the clicker? Is there a click? How do I switch?
There is no clicker.
What do I do? Oops.
You just say next slide.
Got it. Okay. So, yeah, this is an aerial that shows the distant location of the property along the Indian River. A little closer up, you can see the single-family homes to the north, our proposed project in the middle, and the existing condominiums to the south. This is a site plan that we have put together. that illustrates what we are proposing for landscape buffers, just conceptually. We're aware that the concerns of our neighbors to both our neighbors to the north and the south, and that so we have gone above and beyond with what we are proposing for our landscape and tree buffers. We have laid out the buffers using the county's Type B buffer code requirements, and we've gone, as I said, above and beyond. And we understand that neither the residents to the north or the south or the new property residents really want to be looking at one another. And so we understand that these buffers are important and they play an important role. So we're proposing to increase the size of the buffers at the time of planting, both in size and quantity. 8-foot trees are required by code. We are proposing to put in trees that are installed at 14 to 18 feet in height. 52 trees are required along the north property line alone. We're proposing to use 60. And the hedge that we would use there, along with ground covers, which are part of the way the code requirement is written, we're proposing to increase that hedge in size by 50%. So this would also apply to the southeast corner of the site where you can see Building 10 that's on the riverfront that is opposite the existing condominium structure that's to the south. Okay. So we've put together as an example, we've put together a slide that shows the required sizes of the trees on the left of each set of 3. The sizes we propose to install, which would be in the middle, photograph of each set of 3, and what we could expect to see 5 years later. Generally speaking, we see trees increase in size about 2 feet in height and 2 to 4 feet in width a year. So beginning, and some trees are even faster than that. So this means that 5 years from the time of planting, we should be seeing trees that are 24 to 28 feet in height and around 12 to 14 feet in width. But a very important point that I'd like to make is that this site is fully vegetated, fully canopied. And it's important that we fit this site neatly into this property and provide ample landscape for the benefit of everybody. But this site, because it's fully vegetated, means that we will have a good amount of tree canopy mitigation to address. And this means that at the end of landscaping on this property, that we will have a heavily landscaped site following construction simply by the way the county's mitigation code is written. I work with natural resources all the time, and I know that they heavily prefer to have all the planting accomplished within a site, and they would really prefer not to have payout on the trees. And we're going to have a lot of trees on this property to accomplish that. All right, thank you.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Sir, and you also your name and address for the record?
Thank you. Jake Wise, civil engineer for the project. Business address is 2651 West O'Galley Boulevard in Melbourne. Could we go to the next slide, please? Where is it? I'm sorry, I thought somebody was doing it for you. I think it's just the arrow, right? Oh, there you go. Thank you. So this slide shows what Susan was talking about, of course, in greater detail. So what you're seeing in the middle of the 2 sections is what we're proposing. And then you show how we've moved all the buildings to the center of the site. We provide the best buffer that we can with a combination of extra plantings, extra large plantings, and tree preservation. It's equally as important for our luxury townhome or luxury apartment rental project to be able to buffer our neighbors as it is for them to want to be buffered from us. No offense at all. It's just what we would prefer for our project, to create our own little enclave for our project, just like the condominium to the south of us has done. We also propose 3 stories because the condominiums to the south of us are 4 stories in height, and then you have the 7 or so single-family homes to the north of us. They have their road and then their lots, so we have a little extra buffer too with a roadway there. We did have a voluntary neighborhood meeting, and one of the items that they talked about was sometimes Ruby Road, which is the road to the north of us, does have some flooding issues. So part of our engineering effort will be to help alleviate some of those. Of course, our project will provide on-site treatment, and we won't have anything that runs off from it at all. You notice our application is not asking for a future land use amendment at all. It's just a strict rezoning. We're utilizing the existing future land use amendment. There is an old Cap 6 on there from 1980. Thinking back to 1980, I was in 1st grade, and I looked it up. Caddyshack was the biggest movie of the year. So it's been a little while since then. Vieira wasn't even something people were thinking about. So we were asking to eliminate that part of it. So we feel like the stair-step approach that we're proposing is a good transition of the height. The condensing of the buildings towards the middle of the site is good. I've been driving by this site for decades. That little commercial corridor has never been very successful. So the BU1 zoning probably wouldn't have anything moving forward anytime in the near future. We provide a traffic study. The section of US 1 is very low capacity, very high level of service, and has a lot of trips available. We're not providing any deficiency on it at all. In fact, it still is only about 64% capacity, which is much, much better than most of the main corridors in Brevard County. With the zoning that we're asking, the PUD, we have the option of doing alternative development standards, with the option of asking for waivers. We have the option of asking for a density bonus. We're not asking for any of those. None of those at all. We're just asking for the zoning. We do have a wetland area on site that we worked around and preserved. We're going to greatly enhance it. Right now it's got invasives and it's not looking too good. So we'll be improving it with a mix of replantings, buffering it, and keeping it enhanced with a water connection to it as well. We do have an existing dock that's in disrepair, so we'll talk to staff about working with a manatee protection plan, making sure we're in compliance with that to bring the dock back into compliance with being able to utilize it, as they said, for an asset to our project to be on the river the way we are. The PUD was created so you can create these types of unique and cohesive development plans, and so we have a lot of different amenities around the project, plus the access to the river that we talked about previously. This developer, friend developer that we've worked with before, is typically does their projects with low impact development standards. They try to get to like a LEED silver level. So they are very proud of how they try to work within the environment that they're at. We also will work with staff to hit as many of the points with the green stormwater infrastructure that we can too. We know that's always a concern at the county level and for us as well, being local. There's no endangered species that were found on the site. We did do an environmental assessment of it. We have the wetlands, and there could be a few gopher tortoises, though, that we would have to relocate. A final study would be done on that prior to construction starting. With that being said, I promise not to go through all the points in staff. You've got your future land use policies 1.2, 1.4, 2.1, admin policies 3 and 4, and the natural resource review. If you see all the different criteria, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them for each of those, that we either comply with every single one of them or they're really not applicable to our site. So we feel like our project is meeting all the criteria that we need, and we're, again, just asking for our zoning to come in compliance with the existing future land use that's there today. With that being said, I don't know if the team wants to add anything else, but we do appreciate a chance to respond to any public comments.
While you're right there, Mr. Wise, before we go out to the audience, does anyone...
I got a question. if you don't mind.
All right.
It's
Mr.
just
Moya.
one engineering question. Have you done a traffic study? And if so, what are the improvements that are being required or recommended?
Do you know the specific improvements?
Sir, if you could state your name and address
Yeah.
also for the record.
Landon Shear, address 2651 West Valley Boulevard. Yeah, we did a preliminary TIA for the planning level study. There is a northbound right decel lane and a southbound left decel lane that is proposed, or going to be proposed with the project and incorporated when the site plan comes.
Thank you.
I got a couple.
Yes, sir.
Jeff, I'm going to get you next, Jake. Jeff, the item they talked about in 1980, was that 6 or 4?
My recollection back in 1980, there was a land use plan which predated the 1988 comp plan. And that cap and density was at 6 units to the acre.
Okay, because I think that was a Nancy Higgs favorite. What, you weren't even here. You may not have been born, but that was well constructed back in 1980. Do you remember, Bruce? I'm trying to remember if it was 4 or 6. There wasn't too many of us there.
Yeah, I don't remember much about what she did in this. I remember she did a lot in South Melbourne Beach, but I don't know too much about what she did here.
But it applied to everybody.
Yeah.
Jake, how close is the old Alamo to this site? Do you know what I'm talking about, the old Alamo, or
I
does
think I
that
can go back a couple slides
ring a
here.
bell to you?
It's like one track in between that and this, isn't there?
So the old Alamos, yeah, the street north of us, one more development, and then the old Alamo is there.
Okay. If I said the Lancaster property, does that mean anything to you?
Does not.
Okay.
We're going to give you a chance.
The water on this site would come from where?
City of Cocoa has a 16-inch water main in the US 1 right-of-way, and then Brevard County, to probably answer your next question, has a 6-inch force main.
Does Brevard have the sewer there?
They do.
Okay. And they have the capacity?
They do, yeah. We would be doing a private lift station that we would maintain.
Okay. Is the address of this site Rockledge, or is it, what is it?
It is Rockledge, yeah. I think the mailing address is Rockledge, yes.
Okay. It's not a trick question. I mean, I just.
Fair enough.
Yeah, okay. How far are you from the city of Rockledge? About the true city of Rockledge boundaries, do you know, or I'm hitting you with too many?
Yeah, it's just a little strange on US 1. I think if you get up by Indian River Furniture, you're hitting the Rockledge line, so that's a good distance from us.
To the best of your recollection, is there anything, what's the closest proximity to this potential site that would be somewhat identical to that site?
Well, I would say the property to the south of us directly is 4-story condos, residential. If you go up and down this corridor, you see a mix of single family.
Distance-wise, I mean.
How far is the site?
Yeah.
The site to the south of us, we're hundreds of feet from, between building to building. Just north of the Alamos, another condominium project that we did probably about 15 years ago or so. So that's pretty compatible. And there's, again, a mix of single family, north and south in between those as well.
How long has these new owners owned this property?
Yeah, I can take that. So, Mr. Lancaster passed away, I want to say 2 years ago. I had spoken with Mr. Lancaster for several years. His nephew or his son-in-law, I can never remember the relationship, inherited the property. And so we are contract purchaser. So Mr. Mastroianni still owns the property, and we have a purchase contract to acquire the property.
So this is truly the Lancaster property?
It is, yeah.
Okay. I was, Jake.
Yeah, and Jake wouldn't know that because he hasn't been involved in
sorry.
the contract negotiations, so.
Okay, that's all the question I have for now.
Yes, sir, Mr. Robert.
Thank you. So give me the rationale for removing the cap of 6 units per acre.
Robert, could you get just a little closer, please, sir?
Can you give me the rationale for removing the 6 units per acre cap?
Yes, we're looking at the overall property because it's a mix of different land uses underneath it. So because it was done all the way back in 1980, in order for us to be able to have a successful project with this type of luxury apartments and the maintenance and upkeep that goes with them, in order to be able to do a project like this, we have to have enough units to make it so that it can be maintained in the luxury manner that we want to.
You mentioned that the property to the south of you is also a condo. Do you know the number of units per acre for that?
I don't know the numbers of units, but typically in this area, it's dictated by wetlands and things like that because Brevard County doesn't allow impacts.
Actually, it's dictated by the coastal high hazard area.
And I was just going to say the coastal high hazard area as well.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
And the exception for the commercial portion is not mapped as a coastal high hazard area. And the rationale, I'm a consultant for FEMA. The reason is commercial doesn't have people living in it. So the cap is dictated by the coastal high hazard area.
Yes.
So
within
that's been since 1996, not 1980.
Yeah, a portion of our site is within the coastal high hazard area, and we do meet all the requirements of
But
that.
if you're going to change it to be residential, then you're going to have the whole element would be changed because coastal high hazard areas are not for commercial, they're for residential.
I think.
Yeah, I think it's important to note here that this coastal high hazard is not the same coastal high hazard as defined by FEMA. This is a coastal high hazard as specifically defined by Brevard County. So if you look at the FEMA map,
That's correct.
It's
That's
not
correct.
a FEMA coastal hazard.
I work in FEMA in 17
Yeah, no,
states. So, yeah, it
Yep.
changes.
Just
And
wanted
local
to
jurisdictions do have changes. But, so if the entire surrounding area and the other properties are all capped at 6 units per acre, and I'm assuming that the majority of the people in the audience have that concern, why would Brevard County want to grant a specific element or a specific property to not have that cap when all the other properties, including the one to the south, complied with it?
I would just assume, and maybe incorrectly so, but that you would want to unify the zoning layer and the comprehensive plan layer that's been adopted by county commission. And so that's really what we're proposing to do, right? There's an adopted comprehensive plan. I apologize, I don't recall exactly when it was adopted. The zoning cap was put in place in the 80s. Jake, maybe you know, or maybe our land use counsel, Jason, knows when the comprehensive plan was adopted, but I think it was adopted post-1980. And so again, really, we are just trying to marry up what's allowed per the county's comprehensive plan and the zoning layer is really the request.
Okay. Bear with me for a second. I'm looking at a 2023 Florida statute here, and it is coastal management. And in here it says, under Section B, for local governments that have not established a level of service for out-of-county hurricane evacuation by following the process in paragraph A, the level of service shall be no greater than 16 hours for a Category 5 storm event as measured by the Sanford Center scale. Currently, the Eastern Florida Central Regional Planning Council has a Category 5 hurricane at 56 hours. Now, I don't know about you, but I've spent 30 years doing urban search and rescue, and nobody gives you 56 hours worth of notification for a Cat 5. You're lucky to get 16 hours for a Cat 3. So what we're looking at is, one, I have some problems with evacuation. Two, I have a problem with the cap of the density, and US 1 is an evacuation zone. And it's not going to be just local people using US 1. If I-95, as in the case of previous hurricanes, is clogged, then the secondary route will be US 1. So I do have some heartburn with increasing the density, particularly in areas of the coastal high hazard area as defined by Brevard County, but also by FEMA. Thank you.
And our current zoning and land use allow for 157 multifamily units, so we're not asking for a significant increase. We're just asking for that old cap 6 to be removed. That was, again, done in 1980.
But if you do the math for the area, just reduce it back down to the cap for 6 units per acre. That could be a very viable option. You'd probably get rid of half the, or 90% of the objections that you're about to hear.
Thank you.
That's all.
Okay. Any other questions? Mr. John?
Yes, I have a question for staff. Mr. Ball, I always understood that a PUD was for mixed use. This is a single-use development. How does that play with the PUDs?
It can. A PUD is a flexible zoning category or district where the applicant can come in and design their zoning code to meet the product type that they want to build. It allows for flexibility to the setbacks and that. So in that respect, it's a zoning district that that the applicant has the ability to design on its own.
But doesn't that set a precedent? I mean, people could come in and make everything a PUD just to do a single-use development. I always thought it was mixed use, industrial, commercial, retail, not just residential on its own as an apartment project.
It can be mixed use. It can also be one single use as residential. There's no restrictions either way.
Okay, because I didn't see where it stipulated that it could be a single use. That's why I was asking the question.
Oh, in our code, we do have an RPUD, which is strictly for residential.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions from the board?
I have a question for staff.
Mr. Brad?
So, in order for this to be profitable, which is what we see all the time coming through here, they have to have a certain number of units. It's currently got 157 that they can use, which that's not enough for them. But that's given us a little over 10 units per acre. So, at 252 units, it's working out to be about 16 units per acre.
The way that we calculated it is it's about 17 units to the acre overall.
Okay. So, is there any other category other than going to a PUD that they could use to get the acre or the units per acre that they need? Because this seems like a large jump.
I don't want to go off the cuff and tell you what would work and what wouldn't. There are some zoning districts, I should say standard zoning district that, is comparable to the, Res 15. We'd have to look at with the cap of 6. I don't know off the cuff of what that would be, and I don't want to give the board a false sense of direction.
All right, thank you.
I have a follow-up question to that. I just want to make sure I understand that too. So the only way they can get the density bonus that they want is to go with PUD.
It's, just to be clear, it's not a density bonus.
What is it?
They're allowed to shift their units, but overall they cannot. So they have 2 land use categories. They have the community commercial.
What is it, NC?
They have CC and Res 15 with the zoning, because this is a little bit wonky, is that prior to 1988, there was no flu designation. So in this instance, the board decided to cap the density with the zoning. In this instance, it's Res 10 or RU 210 with a cap of 6.
Correct.
So normally without that cap, you would be able to do 10 units to the acre.
Correct. But just looking at it with the land use. So the density they're requested, so if they're getting to 17 units to the acre, it's because the neighborhood commercial, or the community commercial gives them 30 units to the acre on that part. and combined with the 15, they can
Correct.
get 17? Okay, I just want to make sure but so it really, it's not the PUD that's getting them there, it's the.
Correct.
Okay, I just want to make sure I had that straight, thank you.
Bruce, I still liked your word that you used, bonus.
Mr.
Yeah,
Chairman?
we could apply for a bonus density. We are not at all.
No, I understand, that's what I wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
You're not.
Yep.
And I thought, that's why I was wondering why you chose the PUD. I thought that was what was getting you the additional units, but that's not what's.
Not
getting-
at- yep, not at
Just
all.
wanted to make sure I understood that.
And if you look at the staff report, the second page, it identifies the county's comprehensive plan shall be the guidance for consideration when considering the appropriate zoning district to rezone a property to moving towards consistency with the future land use.
correct.
That's what we're
Yep.
doing.
Thank you.
Is that 80, 1980?
1980, yes.
That was back in your day, Mr. Henry.
Mine too, Caddyshack was my favorite movie.
Easy, you too.
Okay, any other questions from staff, or I'm going to take it to the audience? Any other questions for staff?
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Jake, if you, okay, now how many speakers did y'all want?
At least 3.
One?
At least 3.
Oh, jeez. Okay, we're going to be nice. We're going to give you at least 3 and a possible 4 if you need it. And whoever would like to speak can come up, and if you just get close enough to the microphone so we could get your name and address for the record.
Mr. Chair, before she comes up and speak, I wanted to clarify this for the board, is the existing land use and zoning is consistent. So if you look at the consistency table in 62-1255, the commercial component of the CC is consistent with the BU1, and the Res 15 component is consistent with the RU 210.
Thank you. Thank you for that clarification. That's good to know.
Is 3 minutes fine?
I think so. I think it'll be fine. Yes.
Because after you say your name and address, I'm going to hit my little button. And
Okay,
Please,
my-
when we get to the timer, we got to cut it off.
Okay, that's
All
fine.
right. And your
Okay.
name and address, please?
All right, my name is Pam Higgins, and I live at 100 Ruby Street, right
Okay.
abutting next to this property.
All right.
Okay? So I wanted to thank you all for letting us air our concerns. We appreciate you all volunteers, and that we really appreciate the questioning that you're taking, and that you're taking this seriously, because this is very important to all of our communities along this area. I'm speaking now, since we met out in the hallway, for at least 4 communities. North of us is called Pisces area. That's one. We're Ruby Street. We have this property that we're talking about. Then we have Laguna Vista, and then we have Indian River Isles North. And all of us are represented here. And I wanted to thank everyone that came, and we're wearing black. So you can kind of see where we are, and showing solidarity for our togetherness in wanting to oppose this action of PUD. So, also wanting to note that this process is new to most of us, in particular me, and we're starting behind the 8 ball, and not this language and comprehensive plans and coastal high areas and all sorts of land use and future land use and using the maps and all that. We've had to learn on our own for the last month while we've been involved in this. And of course, the developer has been looking at it for months and months, and has had input from the staff, which we have not had. So we're coming to you from behind, and we're also looking to you to be the gatekeepers, to really look at this and see all of it. We've learned also that your recommendation to the county commissioners is very important to them, and what you say will have a huge impact on their mindset. So therefore, you are very important to us. I wanted to speak primarily about the, oh no, I only have 37 seconds left. Okay.
Watch this.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Okay, so my area that I wanted to talk about particularly has to do with PUD zoning. And although the staff, I guess that's what you're called, the staff considers 1 to 3 units of rental property a varied amount of home options, seems very wrong. And according to the Brevard County's Code of Ordinances, Chapter 62, Sub V, Section 621442, there's Section 3 that says it's the purpose and intent and objective is the creation of a variety of housing types and compatible neighborhood arrangements that give the home buyer, not rental, the home buyer, greater choice in selecting types of environments and living units. That's right from the code. There are no home buyers in this situation. It's all rental unit. Okay. So we feel that this use of PUD zoning is wrong, that they couldn't get this place, this property, and put this unit on it, this plan, without going to PUD. They could not do it. They can't use what it's currently zoned at, and you all know that. Common sense alone tells you that, gosh, how you have to manipulate yourself and to try to understand how they get to the density levels is mind-boggling. And that alone tells me that something's wrong here. This is not the appropriate use of PUD. In this proposal, there's just one out-of-state owner who would be given the concessions of relaxed density in order to make this plan. Also wanting to point out that this plan is going to be a business. This is going to be rental units, all rental units, and it's going to be, to my mind, multifamily commercial real estate. It's now going to be put on residentially unit zoned property and doesn't seem appropriate at all for this plan. That is a big thing. And then the other point is, multifamily rental, again, is businessy. It's a business proposition. They're going to be making money off of this. We understand that this whole property could be sold off. We don't know the next owner. They all say they're all really good and nice and wonderful, but from another state. And we don't know what that looks like for us. There are many issues we have with the concerns of this applicant. And you all have at least 11 letters in your packets from our people.
No,
There's probably more.
We have more than that.
You have more than that. I was able to pull off from the website only 11. Some of us, I don't know if they didn't make it in, what happened, but maybe you've got them. That's good. So we're very concerned about it, but you can, within those letters, read all that you don't want to hear us talk about over and over again. And so from that, I just want you to understand that our focus is that the planned unit development is not an appropriate measure or way to approach this. And it's not, the other point that I want to make is that PUD, this would be the first PUD in our corridor from Barnes Boulevard down to the Pineda Causeway. There are no other PUDs, none. There are no other units of this high density, no other properties with RU30 or even RU15 built out along that corridor. And that is huge because it really changes the density from capped at 6 or EU to this huge 17.2 average. And the ask is a lot. They're asking for so much and on basically our community's backs. So I haven't covered everything, I'm sure, but others will. So I did one other thing that I did want to point out is that the, if we could look at the layout again, the top down, could we somehow look at it? No?
Well, we'd have to call them back up.
Okay, well, you got it here. Okay, so, well, they say there's 160 feet between our homes and the next building. But what they don't tell you is that the parking areas and the garages are right there. They're literally maybe 10 feet from our properties in. So although they say, oh, we moved everything to the middle, they haven't. They have 500 spaces there. So I wanted to point that out. Plus, also within that area, there are other protected species. There's bobcats, and we have alligators, we have other things. And there's a little pond, which we all love, that they are going to fill in
No,
in order
I was
to make
very
this.
nice and extended your time.
All right, there we go. I'm done.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Now, are you wanting 37 minutes or 3?
I'll try to keep it short. She covered a lot of things, so I won't.
Well, the reason
I won't take that long.
We don't want to hear
Understood.
about the alligators again, please.
Yes, sir.
But no,
Understood.
with all due respect to everybody, the applicant and the neighborhood, you know, the county, thank goodness for our staff, makes these guys jump through hoops. They're not going to just allow something to come in here if it doesn't be contiguous with, the surrounding zonings and planning and engineering. We have engineers on this board. We got guys with FEMA on this board. We've got actually a very good board, very knowledgeable board. But how many minutes would you like?
I'll try to keep it under 3.
I'm gonna
I'll
give
do
you.
my best.
I'm gonna give you 5, and I'm gonna
Okay.
have to cut you off
All
at
right.
5.
Thank you.
All right. Your name and address, sir?
My name's Rob Solito. I live at 6005 US Highway 1, which is the Laguna Vista condos to
Okay.
the south of this project.
All right. Here we go.
And I appreciate all of you being here, and some of you probably know that I'm a commercial real estate broker. I have always been relatively pro-development, and some of you also probably know that a handful of years ago I sat on this board. So I understand what you guys are looking at, and I appreciate that you're giving me a little extra time. I won't go into some of the things. I was going to read this, but Pam covered a lot of the things there. So a couple of things that I wanted to just clarify when we talked about, or the developer talked about the condo building right next door being 4 stories, and so therefore their 3-story condo or apartment complex shouldn't be a big deal. The difference is density. We are on 4.5 acres. We have 24 units. Our density is 5.3. It's a huge difference. So while we do have a 4-story building, it's well buffered in all directions. The density is under the cap of 6. The development to the south of us, Mr. Gage, who's on vacation, can't be here today. He's got a site plan approval for an 11-unit, 2-building complex. Again, staying under the density of 6. So following the trajectory that we've used for a long time in this area, the density going from a cap of 6 to 17 plus seems untenable to all of us, which is why we're all here today. There's a couple other things that I'll say. Pam did mention there are no similar developments or densities, frankly, between Barnes and Pineda. So there is a condo, our condo complex. There's another condo complex a little bit to the north, and then there's the large townhome complex at the corner of US 1 and Vieira Boulevard. It's very big. I looked it up and I did some calculation. They are single story mostly and couple 2-story townhomes. They are under the density cap of 6. There's over 100 units there, but they have 35 acres. So they, again, while it's a big complex, they're staying with that density cap. We do also, there's another couple of points about the PUD designation, which Pam didn't mention, that specifically states that a PUD must meet significant open areas and natural preservation. This does not do that. It has one section in the center of wetlands, develops the rest. Must take advantage of the natural features of the land. That's a questionable. They're going to add some trees, but they're going to essentially fill the entire piece of land with buildings and parking. 3, must create a variety of housing types. Specifically says that in the PUD designation, must. Now, 1, 2, and 3 bedroom apartments are not different types of housing. There's no condos, there's no townhomes, there's no single family residences. And number 4, it must have an inclusion of compatible associated uses. Must. Does not do that. Having a clubhouse and a pool is not an associated use, in my opinion. So one of the other main points that I wanted to make is that the preliminary development plan needs to be evaluated with the context, right, of section 621448 in the zoning code, which says, I quote, "The degree of departure of the proposed plan unit development from surrounding residential areas in terms of character and density." This is a high degree of departure in terms of density. I mean, from a cap of 6 to a cap of 17 or 18 is it's unbelievable that they would even ask for it, honestly. There are a few administrative policies also that I know the staff has worked with the developer on, but there's a few that they don't meet, and one of them is policy 6. There's several more that are in the letters, but policy 6 says that the proposed application must be consistent with all written land use development policies. All. Clearly, they've not met all of them. They've not met most of them. And they don't meet the definition of a PUD, which very clearly says they will have a full range of residential types as well as industrial, commercial, institutional land uses. All of those things are part of a PUD. So with that, I will gladly answer any questions, but I got you with 4 seconds left.
All right. Thank you.
Sorry.
All right, sir. Can you make do with 5 minutes?
Yes, sir, I think I can. My name is Kevin Fox, 6398 Anchor Lane. I'm here to represent 52 property owners. I'm the president of the Indian River Isles Property Owners Association Board.
You had the floor.
Primarily, I first started out, I only moved here in 2002, and I remember coming over to this complex with the county commissioners, and they brought up this exact issue, looking forward to the future of how they would develop the lands. And at that time, I remember them discussing and voting on and supporting the 6 units per acre. Everybody's using this 1980, 1996. With all due respect, when you call planning and zoning and you try to get the minutes for the county commissioners, trying to find, so I could bring some actual facts to show you, it's next to impossible to find it unless you're a system expert. I'm not that. I'm primarily just up here to speak on the neighborhood to say I don't think it fits in with the plan. The plan was 6 units. I don't know where this 15 comes from, but my belief is the county commissioners voted to support the 6. All the other developers along the US 1 from Barnes down to Pineda Causeway have all lived by that rule. These people are just asking for a exemption to that. Well, if you give it to them, the next neighborhood south of that, south of Laguna Vista, just north of our neighborhood, Indian River Isles North, there's approximately, I think, 14 acres. They're zoned exactly the same way, business and residential. So with all due respect, I foresee them going in and putting 252 apartments in there. Why would they not? If you're going to grant that, and it's just going to be a snowball rolling downhill, and we're going to develop in it. Is that what we want? I'm not against developing. I fully support them to let them develop the land as much as they want under the 6 dwelling units per acre. That's primarily all I wanted to speak up. I don't believe it really complies with the PUD as a neighborhood when we talk about it. A PUD to me is the avenues. You go up there, you have apartments, you have condos, there's houses, there's shopping, movie theaters, and all that. That to me is a PUD. Maybe I'm an uneducated individual who doesn't understand all the nuances of these rules. Sometimes I think these rules are written so that you can tell the public as myself one thing, but then you can do something totally the opposite. Go, oh, well, you know, there's a little hedge over here. You can do that. It's a gray area. And I would ask that the board as a whole would think about if you were the neighbor living right next to it on Ruby Street, Laguna Vista, the neighborhood to the south, Indian River Isles North, what would you want if you were living there? If it was your next door neighbor, if you were in our shoes right now, what would you ask the board? That's pretty much all I have, unless you have any questions for me.
No, we're good.
Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you, sir.
I probably won't even need 3, sir. Thank you.
That's all right. Put your name and address for the record.
My name is Rebecca Hatch. I am a resident at 110 Huron Lane, representing the 6 members, complying with the density cap on our property. I think we have 6 total acres, but again, seconding what our neighbors are saying there. And thank you all for letting us have this opportunity today. I'm forever thankful. And I really love also development as well. However, the one component that I have not heard anyone address is something that is super important here in Brevard County. Sorrel, Save Our Indian River Lagoon. And while we have some beautiful pictures of landscaping that are going to be on there, I didn't see any native species. I don't see any nutrient reduction. And it is my understanding that there is some recent Florida legislation that will be coming down that does require that to be done for any stormwater that is emptying into the Indian River Lagoon. So I would ask you to consider the Indian River Lagoon and the impact that this project would have on that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Robert Taylor, 160 Ruby Street. I'm not abiding by the agreement that we only send up 3, but I will be very brief. I had one point to make, and that is, let's just talk about apartments for about 1 minute. Everybody else, from the other side, they brought in all their development articles. I brought mine. Oh, it's printed on the back of your notes. This is all of the apartments on Highway 1, as we mentioned, between Rockledge and Pineda Causeway. This is how many there are. So 240 apartments, you're out apartment shopping. What are you looking for? I lived in an apartment once. You expect it to be in a dense area. You'd be able to walk across the street to Walgreens and get a candy bar. A lot of apartments have kids. They don't have their own yard. They need somebody to play. Where the kids in an apartment play? A lot of times on the street and around. If you play in the street and you're on Highway 1, there's no sidewalk. You can't ride your bike from this apartment complex anywhere on the planet. You would have to ride your bike on Highway 1, and even my 20-year-old kids are not willing to do that. In the same way, there's no McDonald's, there's no grocery store. This is essentially the last little bit of a rural community in between other cities that developed, and there's no resources there. We used to have a wonderful restaurant. As you mentioned, the Alamo, it's gone. Commercial is not, it's not thriving along this corridor because people don't want to be there shopping for things like this. You can make a decision and say, yeah, let's put enough people into that spot and make them walk around and let's create commercial, but you would be doing something completely new. Apartments, I don't believe this is where they belong. You don't find apartments on top of a mountain all by themselves in the woods. I don't think apartments belong here, period.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Well, if you want to come. Well, hold on. We still
got one more.
So we're going to 5 now, right? Come on, sir, come on. Is there anyone else going to speak? Okay, because I'm going to.
This will be a minute.
Okay.
Nice to be able to use this. We put this in here in 2010.
Your name and address, though, for the record.
R.P. Higgins, 100 Ruby Street. I've been a resident of 28 years. It's a fine community. Wanted to let you know that. I want to thank you all for the opportunity to speak. Wanted to address a couple issues that Mr. Minabu and Mr. Sullivan brought up that I thought were apropos. What do we do in case of a hurricane? So we got 252 residents who are looking to get out of town. The good thing, we have a neighborhood, and we all help each other. Sorry. I don't think that's going to happen with this new development. I don't see it happening, and it's part of the charm of living in this part of Florida. I think our way of life is going to be altered immeasurably. The second thing I wanted to address is in 2016, Brevard County passed a resolution to add a half-cent sales tax for cleaning up the Indian River, and it was addressed earlier, but this development flies in the face. Now, you're going to hear a lot of technical stuff, I'm sure, about how they're handling runoff. We're going to have almost 4 acres of asphalt put in to cover 500 parking spaces. What's going to happen to that? That's going to go directly in the river. Okay, they're going to have lift stations and this and that and the other thing. Invariably, with the vegetation, it's going to get clogged. Who's going to clean it up? You're going to pick up the phone and call somebody? No, it's going to go in. I mean, because it's an apartment. Apartment owners don't care. They don't have any skin in the game. This is what we're going to miss. Anyway, I want to thank you all again for the time. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, sir. All right. I'm going to ask one more time, does anyone else want to speak for or against this item? And I'm going to...
Oh, we got one.
We got one more. All right.
Thank you so much, everyone here.
We will need your name and address for the record, ma'am.
Yes, sir. Stephanie Bacon, 6167 Anchor Lane, Rockledge, Florida. Proud member of the Indian River Isles community. I, too, served on a homeowners board or property owners board for close to 13 years, so I really respect all of your time here today, and thank you for that. I'm all about the kids. Right now, school buses do not stop on US 1 for a very good reason. We're over 55 miles an hour there. They pull into each development and pick up our children. I would suspect that 252 homes would also generate many children. So just something for you to consider. I'm sure there's a plan for something like that. But thank you very much.
All right, thank you. All right, floor's closed. I'm just kidding. I'm going to close it, though. Anyone else want to speak for or against this? And then I'm going to close the floor, and then I'm going to close the floor. We're going to take it back to the applicant. And, sir, you wanting to come up?
I just wanted to make a quick comment before.
Hold on one second. I don't know if we got his name and address for the record.
Happy to do it. Thank you. Good afternoon. Jason Searle Gray Robinson, 1795 Nassau Boulevard, Melbourne.
Okay.
I just wanted to make one quick comment before Jason talks about, I think, some of the legality around the PUD and the comp plan, and Jake addresses some of the more ticky-tacky comments that were made. And it was the comment of apartment developers don't care and don't have skin in the game. Candidly, we do care. I personally care. This is a piece of property that I've pursued for several years now. My colleagues in the office tell me that it's a passion project, and it is a passion project. I'm from here. This is a great piece of property. My parents live 7 minutes down the road, and we have a lot of skin in the game, a lot of time. We invest a lot of money, and because we think that we better the community and we create homes for people. So I'll let Jason address some of the more legal-related questions, but I just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you, Chris. Chairman, members of the board, I appreciate the time. In response, I've tried to summarize just 3 big points, and then I'll turn it over to our project engineer, Mr. Wise, for any comments regarding some of the details in response to the public comment. Appreciate very much the presentation he made from the outset. The 3 things that I want to touch on are the notion that the PUD is the basis for our density here. We believe that to be incorrect, and it's based upon the comp plan. I'll touch on that first. Second, why a PUD and why it's justified here, and then some of the compatibility matters. So if you would please, and I'm happy to flash it up on the overhead on the Epson if I can. First, just when we're looking at the comprehensive plan, the very first administrative policy that we have, number 1, says that our zoning official, our planners, and the directors at the county staff level are our experts when it comes to reviewing and determining appropriateness of zoning, conditional uses, special exceptions, things like today. So staff is where we defer and where we look to for guidance. So what did they do after we made application? They prepared a staff report, and on page 2 of the staff report, I'm hoping to flash this up if I can. All right. Where the arrow starts. Right here. Okay. The notion that the PUD rezoning is the basis for our requested density is not correct. It's actually based upon a comprehensive plan policy 2.10, and this was something that we had worked with staff on and the county attorney's office prior to our application. After we had our very first pre-application meeting, there's a policy in the county's comprehensive plan that says that residential development is permissible in certain commercial land use designations at density of up to 1 category higher than the closest residential designated area on the future land use map, which is on the same side of the street. Here, as you can see at the end of that paragraph where I have the arrow, the next highest density is Res 30. We are using that and not this PUD rezoning as the basis for our density. And in fact, as Mr. Wise touched on in his presentation, we are not seeking any comp plan amendment. I'll be brief. I'm just hitting them one at a time as quick as I can.
Apologize, I didn't turn it off from the last time.
Thank you so much. So just to finish that point before I go to number 2, the next page, page 3 of our staff report, if we were to apply the Res 30, not 15, we could do up to the 288 or the 19.46. As staff, the resident experts have cited in their staff report, the number we're requesting is less than the potential and the maximum. So the PUD is not the basis for the zoning. The comp plan and the policy that we referenced, 2.10, as confirmed by staff, is what we're basing for our density. That's number 1. Why a PUD? Number 2, before we made application, we requested and received a zoning verification letter. The bottom of the first paragraph, we have inconsistent zonings, as Mr. Wise talked about in his presentation. Part of the property has, the smaller part has a commercial zoning, the larger part has a residential zoning. That's highlighted there at the last sentence, not consistent with the future land use. So, why a PUD? We are doing a PUD so that we can uniform the entirety of the property through one zoning and allow it to be developed in a way that creates an asset for the property owner, its rental residents, as well as the surrounding community and the county. This is discussed, bear with me, I'm going as quick as I can, on page 4 of the staff report. You'll see some catchwords like ingenuity, imagination, flexibility. If you're trying to uniform a property, bring it in compliance, you need to use all of those adjectives, and that's what we're doing here. Compatibility, last point. And then happy to turn it over to Mr. Wise for anything in the weeds. I think it was the first speaker said we're coming from behind on this application. I would respectfully disagree. We, applicant, at our own volition, voluntarily had, and many attended, a community meeting on March 26th, where we shared these plans, we received input, and we in fact modified things like buffers and access and some of the on-site considerations in response to that. So just a quick little point there as I pass that on my way to compatibility. Last point, staff report, compatibility, there's a whole section of it. I want to say it's page bottom of page 9 and going over to page 10, there's 4 outline criteria from an administrative policy, policy number 3, from the county's comprehensive plan. So when we're talking about compatibility, this is just not us saying what's compatible. This is what's outlined as the criteria by the county in its own comp plan. So the first one here, at the bottom of the page, whether the proposed, this is the staff report, page 9, and we'll jump over to page 10 in a minute. The first of 4 criteria. Whether our uses, the PUD, will have traffic or other activity that would significantly diminish the enjoyment or safety or quality of the existing neighborhoods. Those that are represented here today. The answer to that was no, it does not. Top of page 10. You can read it. It's right there. B and C I want to skip over, and I want to go to D. Whether the proposed uses result in material violation of the relevant policies in the comp plan. The answer to that, top of page 11, was no, it does not. No material violation. B is a property value consideration. Staff said we have to have an appraisal to do that. Can't do that because you don't have the use to the appraisal. We have materials based upon our experience in the market that would argue, and I've seen it, I've heard of expert testimony from others in other zoning cases that have said that new development actually increases property values of the surrounding area. And we'd be happy to present that evidence if Mr. Chair would like.
Hold on one second, please, ladies and gentlemen. They didn't speak or comment while y'all were talking, so let's please do the same for them.
Thank you, Chair. I sat down a couple times. I wanted to get up here so bad.
That's all right.
Sure. Just really quickly to Jason's point, right? There is, or there have been published several research papers at the university level that speak to property values and development nearby. I think the first to point out, and unfortunately none of these were specific studies done for Brevard County. They were done at universities around the United States, but the first was highlighted by the Urban Land Institute in Nashville. The quote being, well-placed apartments with attractive design and landscaping actually increase the overall value of detached houses nearby. The value of single-family houses within 300 feet of an apartment or condominium building went up 2.9% a year, slightly higher than the 2.7% rate for single-family homes without multifamily properties nearby. That was by the Urban Land Institute. Another study by a senior research fellow at the Ken Gardner Policy Institute of the University of Utah, the impact of higher density apartments on surrounding single-family home values in suburban Salt Lake County. I'll see if I can find the punchline for y'all. Let's see. This study found apartments built between 2010 and 2018 have not reduced single-family home values in suburban Salt Lake County. Let's see here. Between 2010 and 2019, homes located within 1/2 mile of a newly constructed apartment building experienced a 10% average annual increase in median value, while the value of those farther away increased by 8.6%. Only in the southeast part of the county did homes more than 1/2 mile away from the new apartment construction experience higher average price appreciation than those located less than 1/2 mile away. One other study, a summary was conducted by the Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission of multifamily housing impact literature review. The last one being, the study's name was Smart Growth and the Challenge of NIMBY, Multifamily Dwellings and Their Association with Single-Family Housing Selling Prices in Tallahassee, Florida. It was created in 2013 by Houston Gibson and Matthew Baker of Kansas State University. The punchline was, let's see, the study found that single-family homes within 300 feet of multifamily housing experienced no negative impact in property values. In many cases, the authors observed that single-family homes near multifamily housing often witness an increase in property values compared to single-family homes not adjacent to high-density development.
Thank you, Chris. So that's B. We've done A, B, and D. Coming back to C, C essentially says that there has not been enough data within the preceding 3-year period. I would argue that compatibility is established through this being a transition area from the existing 4-story or taller condos to the south and the lower single-family residences to the north. So your compatibility is created through the transition area that we're creating through the PUD. I really thought that those were the essence of the various speaker comments, but I'd be happy to answer any questions. I also want to make sure that Mr. Wise or Ms. Hall have a chance to talk about any site-specific items that were mentioned by any of the 5 public speakers. With that, I have nothing further.
Do we have any questions for him, board?
Yeah, I do have a question. So the properties, you're talking about compatibility between properties to the south and properties to the north. One thing they all share is a cap of 6 units per acre. So how would that not be compatible? Or how would you be compatible with that?
We have the future land use designation today. We have the policy.
That's a
today.
future land use, the existing land use right now, and you've got a lot of people over here that are very, very insistent that they're between Rockledge Drive and Pineda, there is no PUDs and there are no apartment complexes. So we're looking at compatibility with the adjacent properties, and I'm bringing up that they are compatible because there are 6 units per acre.
Yeah,
it's vacant.
And thank you for that. Thank you for that question. And noted on the cap, I would say, and I apologize, I don't have the comprehensive plan map memorized, but I do believe that they share the same comprehensive plan designation as our site. Jake, Landon, does that sound correct? I think the Res 15 and the CC runs up and down this corridor. And so while maybe today they have the 6 acre cap, there is nothing stopping a guy like me coming here in a month or two and making the same application on that adjacent property, right? And so I would argue that we can get to even further consistency because they have the same density basically allowed as of right that we have today.
Okay.
And I was just taking notes from some of the speakers, so I'll just run through what I had written down that someone said. We do have one local owner who does have a lot of skin in the game, as he put it. They're not trying to do a project, flip it, move on. They're looking for long-term residents for this area. And back in 1980, could you imagine the number of apartments that we have in this area today? Nobody could. Nobody could imagine what was coming. Right now, what we're seeing is a demand for them like we've never seen before. Look at all the apartment projects in Vieira and all across, especially southern Brevard County. And you can't even drive up and down 528 or any of the other corridors and not see them coming up everywhere. That is what is in demand today. That is the market. And we're providing a needed product for the area. Always dangerous to start comparing projects to projects, but very briefly, Laguna to the south of us, a lot of that property is in wetlands conservation easement. They probably went 4 stories because they had a limited amount of up to probably get their height when that project was developed. Again, a million other factors of development, but those are the major ones. The PUD, it does identify a variety of products, but that's for PUDs all over the county. There's numerous PUDs across Brevard County that have single-family types of uses or one type of residential use. If the property was bigger, it would probably have more, but we're limited on the size of the property. We do meet, and it's written in the staff report, the open space and preservation criteria. We do provide a lot of amenities. We have a mile trail around the property, pool, sport courts, all kinds of things like that. So this is a luxury product, and we're providing those types of uses for it. And the staff report, again, identifies that we are in compliance with it. And I even mentioned the access to the river. Speaking of the nutrient removal, I heard somebody say the historical use of this site is a nursery and a tree farm. That's about the worst possible use to put next to a river with fertilizers and all the things that directly run off straight to the river. We're taking that all back. We're going to meet all the BMP and exceed all the criteria of St. John's. The nutrient removal is about probably 96% to 98%. That means 96 to 98% of any of the nutrients will be kept on site and treated and not go into the river. It is a significant improvement to the Indian River lagoon system with what we're proposing to do. And that's the criteria that we meet today because of the concerns, of course, that we all have that live in this area. Sorry, just running by my notes. Plantings. Native plantings only. That's all we'll do. We'll remove every invasive. The site is overwhelmed with invasive. The wetlands are a mess. We're going to improve them, fix them, buffer them, and enhance them significantly. That's all part of our project. It's a great enhancement to our project to have the preserved wetlands, to have the access and the visibility to them. Same with the preservation of the native plantings around the entire perimeter to help buffer, plus what we're planting, and to protect the Indian River. Stormwater treatment. I mentioned earlier we will do the nutrient removal and provide all of the criteria. Because we're on US 1, we meet much more stringent requirements than Brevard County requires. We run 48 storm events that we design to, not just 1 or 2 that the state and the county have us do. You heard Mr. Searle go through and identify how the staff report, one after another, how we meet all the criteria that applies to our project up and down our application. US 1, it's again one of the best corridors in this entire county. It's only at 65% capacity. Almost every project I do in a major corridor, they're already past their level of service and don't have capacity. So this area does have capacity for roads. And then yes, we could have more units. We didn't ask for the max. We put in what we thought was compatible with this site, with our neighbors, height, density. There are other multifamily projects in the area. You've got Laguna to the south. You've got other condos to the north. Those are multifamily, multiple story developments. So they are compatible as well. And again, our application is just a change in zoning. That's all we're asking for this board's consideration. And with that, appreciate a chance to respond if you guys have any questions.
Any questions, board, for the applicant? Anyone else on your staff there? Mr. Jake would like to speak.
No, I just want to say thank you. I appreciate the board's time and consideration today. We appreciate y'all. Again, you know, our company really focuses on building kind of best-in-class luxury market rate rental product. We think that it's suitable and appropriate for this site. We're excited about doing business in Brevard County, and we appreciate your consideration.
Mr. Chair, if I may explain what Mr. Schultz explained about the zoning verification letter that was on the property. As the property stands today, there are 2 land use category designations, and there's 2 zoning classifications. It has commercial along the front and Res 15 behind that. It also has BU1 zoning and RU 250 or RU 210 zoning. Both of those zoning classifications are consistent with its respective land use category. And I want to make sure that that's put on the record because there's some confusion with the zoning verification letter. Respectively, with the land use and zoning, those land uses and zonings are consistent with each other. Thank you.
Well, if you want to come back up to the podium, you've heard Mr. Robert down there talking about the men and women in black in here. Is there something in the middle? Because I know you're looking at 17 per acre.
Sure.
Approximately 17.2 to be exact, correct?
17.2 or 17.02. I don't have that.
17.02.
Yeah.
Okay, there's a cap of 6.
Sure.
We're 11 apart.
Candidly, sir, I felt like our initial proffer of 252 units was closer to the middle or was at the middle, right? Again, as the staff report identified, right? I think we could build up to 284 or 282 apartments. We are already offering to do less than technically what is permitted. And so,
oh, I get it.
Yeah. So yeah. I appreciate the request. But again, I think we've proffered an attractive site plan at a home count that does a good job of buffering from the 4-story building to the south and the single-family homes to the north. We provide very sufficient and substantial setbacks from our primary structures from the property line. And so candidly, I think the site plan that we've proffered and put before y'all is a fair representation of an attractive community that will be successful in the area.
Okay. Any other comments from the board?
I got a few.
Mr. Bruce.
I'll go ahead and start, I guess. Might as well.
Yeah, you start.
First, I want to thank all the residents for coming out and allowing us to trim down the comments. I thought you guys did a great job. I think you covered all the hot button points. I don't think you left anything out. It was very complete. So I, for one board member, appreciate you guys agreeing to have some unified voices. On that end, this property definitely needs to be developed, no doubt about it. Is this the development that needs to go there? I'll get to that later. But I agreed with a lot of the things you guys said. I didn't agree with everything. I did want to make a point that Jake was very true, that developing this property will be better for the Indian River Lagoon than the way it sits right now. No doubt about it. And it's a shame that the only development on this side of the road for quite a ways is the condominium project that has its own stormwater system. All the residents on that side drain directly into the lagoon, and that's a problem we've had since I've been here in the early 1960s. So those older houses that drain directly into the lagoon are part of what I consider the main problem that we see today. You've got a great development team. You've got the best landscape architect in the county. You've got the second best engineer in the county.
I wonder who's number one.
I have no idea. But as long as I've been doing this, I have never seen, I don't care what you say, Jake, I've never seen a PUD with one use. Never. And it's never been an apartment complex. And we've done a lot of PUDs and we've done a lot of apartment complexes, and I've never seen a PUD apartment complex. So that's a first for me. And then the second thing is, and I have to be consistent, is transitional zoning. I don't agree that if we have development at 6 units per acre or less, that we should have a spike in the middle of that for one piece of property. So I think this property, the request for the density to me is too extreme. It's not compatible with what's to the north and south, or even in the area in general. Even though the land use supports it, it was downzoned for a reason. The zoning caps it at 6. It is in a coastal high hazard area. It is right on the river. I don't like the fact that you're doing a PUD that you don't have to plat, so you don't have to do a 15-foot perimeter buffer. So you're doing landscaping in the landscape buffer, not including the 15-foot preservation buffer that's required by the county. So I think it's asking too much, in my opinion. And it's strictly because of transitional zoning that I've said time and time again, I cannot support the request.
Mr. Henry.
You want to go? Then I'll go.
Miss Deb, go ahead.
Thank you. I would also like to thank you for coming out and taking your time and making the effort to come out here, and all of you uniting and deciding to have just a few speakers come up and talk to us and not us have to sit here for hours listening to the same thing over and over and over again. And I do really appreciate that. And thank you to the woman who came up first. You really educated yourself. There is a lot of different acronyms that go along with everything that go with P&Z, and you went ahead and you really made sure you understood it and you understood it correctly. So thank you. I appreciate that. I think I agree. At this point, the amount of units that are being requested and being asked for this, I believe, is not appropriate for this land use. It's just not compatible, and there is a slippery slope that's going to come in where that's concerned. There is other land around the area, and once again, as much as we need apartments, as much as there are really great people that live in apartments that absolutely respect the area, respect the land, respect everything, there are just as many that do not. They don't have an ownership to that piece of land, the same ownership that you have as an owner. So I would agree that I don't feel like this is compatible.
Mr. Henry.
Well, there's times when you've been around a long time that there's advantages and disadvantages. If, in defense of the staff, had they known what we went through in 1980, and the debate, the constant debate that was associated with the 6 units to the acre on the river, et cetera, there wouldn't really be a discussion today, because that was ironclad. And unfortunately, a lot of the staff was not here, and unfortunately, I was here. So I got to have the opportunity to go through many of those discussions, both on record and off record. And you know, it's such a great area. In my opinion, it's just virtually, it doesn't need any more changes to do anything more in that area. I mean, I knew Bob Lancaster probably better than the applicant, but you know, it just, that whole thing was never designed for a greater area than 6 units, and 6 is almost too many. But that's what is fully designed for. That's what everybody's maintained. And I don't think we ought to change anything. And by no means could I support what has been presented today.
Mr. Ron, I see you're thinking over there. You've been pretty quiet today.
Yes, I have. I enjoyed listening to all the people. And by the way, thank you for coming out. And the point that I would make is you did a great organization, and continue that when you go to the county commission. They're the ones that are going to make the decision. They're the ones that you've got to impress. You impressed us really great, and I think you do the same thing with them. They'll be very, very impressed. So please, go there. When I was making notes, I was looking at the drawing that they had, what their preliminary plan was. I said, rainwater runoff is going to be a big problem with all that concrete and asphalt, those large buildings. I mean, where's all the water going to go? And I see 2 ponds. Well, I suspect they're going to be full all the time and probably overflowing. It just seems to me a real problem. I just don't like that idea. Another comment is these are luxury apartments, and what we really need is affordable housing, not luxury housing. We have a problem with not having enough housing, but it's not enough luxury housing, more luxury housing we need affordable stuff. Density increase of 3 times, that just seems to be outrageous. Wetlands are going to be covered up. I looked at the layout where the buildings are. Buildings 1, 2, 3, 4, and 8 are partially in floodplains and also in coastal high hazard areas. That's a significant problem. I just cannot support that. And I would make a motion that we recommend a denial of this zoning change.
I'll second.
I'll second that motion.
Well, Mr. Robert already seconded it.
Oh, good.
We have a motion by Ron to deny and a second by Robert. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That was denied unanimously.
Mr. Chair, if I can just, for the audience, this will be heard at the July 11th Board of County Commissioners meeting.
Yes. Okay, item G3.
I'm going to read item G3 and G4 into the record together, but item G4 is going to be read first. So Gen Florida 48 LLC, represented by Kim Rezanka, request a small-scale comprehensive plan amendment 23S.22 to change the future land use designation from Res 1 to 2.5 and Res 1 to Res 4 under application number 23SS00022, tax account number 3000365 and 300569 in District 5. Item G3, Gen Florida 48 LLC, again represented by Kim Rezanka, request a change of zoning classification from GU to PUD under application 23 PUD 00002 tax account number 365 and 3000569 in District 5. And before you begin, I want to read into, for the board considerations. We actually state that there are 6, but there are 5. So one is the proposed development should be capped at 3 units per acre. Number 2 is should the developer provide the storage of campers, travel trailers, recreational trailers, and vehicles, boats and boat trailers, and other similar vehicles on a single-family lot. Number 3, the approval of requested waiver from Section 62-1446 D3B to allow residential structures 2 stories or less, a minimum building separation of 10 feet rather than the 15 feet shall be accompanied by usable open space for recreation with more than a tot lot. Prior to county approval of consideration, prior to county approval of a construction plan and preliminary plat, the developer shall, A, provide documentation that the City of Palm Bay will approve the project access connection to Babcock Street, and B, determine the adequate water and sewer services will be available for the development and will be available prior to issuance of certificate of occupancy. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I may, these are 2 applications. You can discuss the land use and zoning at the same time. However, you'll need to have separate motions for both.
Ms. Rezanka, make it easy.
I do have a PowerPoint, which I don't ever know how to use this system.
You just got to go underneath there.
Okay, I thought it was going to be preloaded. No?
It just says hidden escape on that keyboard.
What is it?
And now at the very bottom, it should be the taskbar.
I've never had help from above.
The PowerPoint just next to the Adobe icon? Is it? This one right here.
Haha, thank you.
And then let's maximize it right here.
Thank you. All right, thank you. My name is Kim Rezanka. On behalf of Gen Florida 48 LLC, the applicant, that's the developer and applicant, the owner of the property. With me today are representatives of the company, Rick Jermaine and Dan Edwards. They're in the back there. If they have any questions they can answer, they'll certainly come forward. Also with me is the engineer of record, Andrew Ivy, and the traffic consultant with Kinley Horn, James Taylor. They're here to answer questions as well. This is obviously 2 applications, one for a future land use amendment to Res 4 and one for a PUD. I wanted to start back in 2014 with Bus and Mayor. We did a PUD on Hall Road, and it was all residential. And that was the first PUD that Brevard County had seen in a long time. And again, PUDs are something that are very common now, but back in 2014-15, they were new, as were rezonings in North Merritt Island. So just with that little background, having listened to the long debate you all had here previously. Just for a bit of an overview, this is in South Brevard County. I don't know how to use this. It's located west side of Babcock Street, north of Willowbrook Street, in unincorporated Brevard County. And again, we have the small scale of Res 1.25, and there's a small section of Res 1 along Babcock. We're asking for Res 4, 4 units the acre, capping it at 3 by the PUD, as you will see. This is the property. This is, again, it's south of the St. John's Heritage Parkway by only about 900 feet, so it's very close to where that road has expanded, which has caused quite a bit of development to the north in that area. And Deer Run is about 1.27 miles to the south. There is one single-family home to the north right here. But if you look a little to the west of that property, it almost looks like there's some commercial use of Davis Lane. I'm not real sure, but there's a lot of trucks parked there. This is the reason we're asking for the residential 4. There is no Res 3, and this is to allow a variety of housing opportunities in South Brevard County. And it is going to have a substantial amount of open space, recreation, passive, and again, we'll go into this in more detail when we get to that, but this is just to show you why we're requesting Res 4. And it does access off Babcock Street, 124 units. This again is the location. There's the St. John's Heritage Parkway. There has many traffic methodologies submitted and says that there will be no decrease in level of service on Babcock Street or any of the surrounding roads. This is a good representation of what is to the north and what has been being developed in this area. You'll see there's quite a bit of development going around the St. John Heritage Parkway. As you may recall, there's a Publix going in right there at the intersection of St. John's Heritage Parkway and Babcock Street. The issue that has been raised in the staff report is the consistency with Res 4, and you guys have heard this argument before, but it's even a stronger argument here because we are further north and because of all the development off of Babcock Street and St. John Heritage Parkway in Palm Bay. Your future land use policy 1.7 does not say surrounding, or it doesn't say adjacent development, it says surrounding nearby. It also does not limit it to Brevard County. So the development that is going on 900 feet to the north is something you can look at, and that is a higher density than what we're requesting here, and this can be considered a transitional density change. The Flu Policy 1.7 states a step down in density from more urbanized area, which is Palm Bay, to the north, which is urbanized. The St. John Heritage Parkway has prompted this growth. There are current deficiencies in the infrastructure. They will be solved. That's why there's a proportionate fair share statute 163.3180 that has been created to allow growth. So there's comments in the staff reports about, oh, we have insufficiency, water, sewer, et cetera, but those will be solved or it can't be built. And that is the sole reason for allowing proportionate fair share. Developer will bring centralized water and sewer to the project. We do have a will serve letter, which I'll give to you here shortly because I do not believe it was in your packet. And that's Flu Policy 1.2, so that will be addressed. Res 4 is compatible because of the urbanization to the north. Criteria B of Policy 1.7 does not require adjacency to be a transition. Also, there is Res 2 to the north in Rolling Meadows Ranch. And that's over 1,300 acres of Res 2 just to the north and west. We are not intending, the developer is not intending to seek a 25% density bonus as referenced throughout the staff report. That bonus has conditions attached, such as requiring higher densities to be relegated to the interior portions of the PUD tract. That doesn't work for this proposed plan. As you see, this is a pretty long, narrow strip. And you've seen from the PUD plan, there's not a lot of interior, so that 25% bonus would not work if we had to put the smaller density on the interior. Administrative Policy 3, compatibility with existing and proposed land uses. Again, the land use is single-family homes, it's not apartments. The actual development, and there is actual development to the north and to the northeast. Administrative Policy 4, character of neighborhood. The closest neighborhoods are to the north. There are Waterstone, Cypress Bay, and Emerald Lakes. There is no other neighborhoods nearby. Those neighborhoods I've just cited are far closer than Deer Run. Staff does state in the comp plan report that the applicant has not demonstrated compliance with Policy 3, Policy 4, and the flu policies I've just discussed, but later states the county commission will make those determinations. I would submit to you that we are compatible because you don't look at exactly adjacency for transitioning from urban areas. The CIE Policy 1.3 states that Brevard County should utilize the advisory level of service standards and the staff report specifies the fire rescue cannot meet those levels. Sunterra will provide whatever proportionate fair share is required for fire rescue, and Sunterra has also agreed to donate 2 acres of land for the fire department for their proposed project to the south. Again, we do have a technical memo dated September 23 of 2023, and that states the roadway segment analysis shows volume will still operate within adopted level of service. The traffic from 124 units is not as substantial as from other developments that have been proposed in this area. School impacts, there was a concurrency review. The staff report says different things at different times, but the concurrency review states at this time, the adjacent elementary, middle, and high school concurrency areas are projected to have enough capacity. Even if it doesn't with all these developments, they're going to do proportionate fair share. There was a meeting, I believe, a week ago Monday of all these new developments, and they're trying to figure out a plan to move forward with additional schools, and Sunterra was part of that meeting. Okay. What I'd like to do, and that pretty much is the future land use presentation. I'd like to go ahead and do the PUD presentation now, so you all have everything in front of you, and then you can ask questions. I do have just a few handouts, including the will serve letter.
Mr. Chair, as Mr. Rezanka is passing it out, I just want to clarify a couple things that she said. Number one, the fire station property was not donation. It was requested by the board for the property to the south. And number two, if you look under Food Policy 1.7, under the criteria, it states areas adjacent to existing residential 4 land use designations or areas which serve as transition between existing land uses or land use designation with densities greater than 4 units per acre and areas with densities of less than 4 units per acre. That's how we define adjacent to existing Res 4 in our comprehensive plan.
Okay. Also, policy B says areas which serve as transition between existing land use or land use designations with greater density of 4 units per acre. So again, I believe there is some analysis that can be done. So first, with the PUD, I do have the will serve letter from Palm Bay that does state that there will be capacity. What I've given you is a map that shows the developments to the north that are in Palm Bay. There is this agricultural subdivision to the south here. That's why it looks that way. They're small lots. They're not intended for residential, but it's just a very old, and it's mentioned in the staff report. The second page I've provided to you is the PUD, and it does have the development standards. Again, it's 124 units. They all smaller lots. They will have over 4 acres of common rec and open space. There's one small little wetland that will be impacted, and there's one large one that will be retained, as you see to the north side there. And there are 2 waiver requests, which were read earlier, that we are requesting as well. The final document that I provided to you does show the proposal, not proposed, the actual developments to the north. That's the Waterstone expansion. That's 5 to 20 units to the acre. The Rolling Meadows I referenced, which is in the county, it's Res 2. There's Cypress Bay at 5 to 20 units to the acre. There's Emerald Lakes at 3.5 density units to the acre. And then Pete Holdings is just to the east and just on the edge of that 2-mile radius, and that's 10 dwelling units to the acre. And then Ashton Park is 5.5 units to the acre. So this is representative of what is going on in this area and showing that growth is happening in this area, and that all the roads and infrastructure will meet this growth demand. So again, this is the small-scale future land use amendment. Today is the local planning agency for the Future Land Use Board of County Commission. It is July 11th. The PUD will also go along with those as well if recommended for approval and approved at County Commission. With that, we are requesting approval of the future land use amendment to change all to Res 4. That will be limited. That will be limited by the PUD to 3 units to the acre. The 2 waivers: a requested waiver to omit the storage of area for campers, travel trailers, recreational trailers, and vehicles, boats, and boat trailers, and other similar vehicles, and a waiver from the minimum building separation of 10 feet rather than 15 feet. Shall be accompanied by usable open space for recreation with more than a tot lot. And then the condition is fine, condition 4, that was in the staff report. So with that, we are here to answer any questions that you may have.
I've got one, Jim. How come this site didn't go into the city of Palm Bay?
The staff report says there's adjacency by the street, by Babcock. I don't know anything about that. That would be the only adjacency is to the street. But we have not sought, nor do they want to go into the city of Palm Bay.
You're going to be getting your water from the city of Palm Bay, and they're not going to require you to annex?
I don't believe so. I don't believe that I know that the staff report says we're adjacent by Babcock. The street is in the jurisdiction of Palm Bay, but I don't think they can make us annex through that. We're not adjacent to any land masses that are in the city of Palm Bay.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I have a question. You were before us on their other property 2 months ago.
Yes, sir.
Bigger property.
1,100 acres.
And you had requested a Res 4. We decided on a Res 2. The county commission gave you the Res 4.
Yes, sir.
So it looks like they're in favor of this. As far as the meeting that was held with the school district last Monday, turns out that all the development of that area is going to amount to about 33,000 units, which are about, and they figured it out, it's about 12,000 students. Wow. Okay? Which means they're going to have to build 11 schools within the next 5 years if all these developments go forward. So that's kind of a big program that's going to go on. And I just wanted to make you aware that the school district is trying to work with you and with the other developers in the area to make this happen. But 7 elementaries, 2 middle schools, and 2 high schools need to be incorporated into that area to make this work. So let's hope it all does.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Mr. Robert.
Go ahead, Rob. Oh, sorry.
Mr. Rod.
Kim, in the center, you have what looks to be 40-foot wide lots and a 5-foot setback, which means there's like 30 feet for a house. Is that right?
I'm going to let the engineer who designed it talk.
Okay.
Good afternoon. Andrew Ivy, 2602 East Livingston Street, Orlando. I think you might be looking at an old site plan, sir. There's a more recent one. All lots are intended to be 50 feet wide.
Okay, well, that brings up I guess that answers the other question I had, because what was shown up on the screen, yeah, that doesn't look the same as what I have in my package.
Okay.
So,
What's the date? Tell me.
Yeah. The most recent plans are from May 31st.
Okay, so all of the lots are now 50 feet wide?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. I was concerned how you were going to put a house on that lot. Even with a 50-foot wide lot, what did I hear about off-site parking And are you requesting?
There's no intention to have a parking lot just for boats and RVs, so the intent is to have them on the lot, sir.
Okay,
The driveways will be 20 feet long.
okay. I was just going to say, a 50-foot lot's going to be kind of tight. What, are these going to be, doing 2-story houses?
Some of them, yes.
Some of them, or most of them?
Some, I can't say at this point. Most builders have multiple options, some longer, some shorter, but with 2 floors and things like that.
And you got two, are those retention ponds? Those
Yes,
in
sir.
blue? So you're going to have the drainage into those areas to keep the rest of it high and dry?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you expect that to have water in it all the time?
Yes.
Okay. That's what I thought. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Robert.
Thank you, Kim. You always do such a professional presentation. I have some concern about increasing from residential 1 to residential 4. And I think Ron's point about the lot sizes and what is compatible in the area, and, you know, people do like that country living out there. And this 50, even 75-foot wide lots seems to constrain that a bit. So while it is certainly allowable in your presentation, what is compatible out there, particularly since the water and sewer is projected to come, what, 2015, 2025? That's still a large area. I'm having the same concerns about increasing density along that corridor as everybody else does, and many of the people in Palm Bay. So can you speak to that for me?
You've made a lot of comments, so I'm not exactly sure where to go first. But dealing with compatibility, these are the same size lots that are just to the north here. And yes, they're in Palm Bay, but that's what's being developed down there. Increasing density, that's where development is going. I mean, you can see from what's been proposed in the 22,000 residents going down there. So I don't think there is an established neighborhood for this parcel itself unless you look to the north, and that's the only neighborhoods that are there. There is some large homes there, and yes, they do. I don't know if the Donovans are here. They're the ones that live to the north, and they've lived there for a while. They've lived for like 22 years. So again, we're not supposed to impact neighbors, and there will hopefully, as you've seen from the PUD, there is the big ponds to the north to help buffer the Donovan's property and any impacts to them from these other houses. It's almost half the property. So, can't remember. So 300 feet of property is going to be stormwater next to that property to the north.
So the discussion that was in the earlier agenda item is the definition of a PUD. I've done PUDs in Miami-Dade and Broward and Palm Beach, and I have to agree with Bruce and Mr. Minipote that they usually have a combination of different types of facilities, different types of commercial buildings, commercial and residential types. And this looks again like it's more like single use. Is that your understanding of a PUD?
And the first PUD that I ever did with Bus and Mayor was the one off of Hall Road and Merritt Island. And it was all single family. And it did have 2 different types of homes, although Mr. Minibu would not let us to do townhomes in that project. And said townhomes don't belong in North Merritt Island. But to me, a variety of housing means a variety of housing types for the community. That's how I read it. So this is the way to make this narrow strip of land developable for homes that people are finding to be in demand.
Okay, and that's a good answer. You know, not to belittle or belay the point anymore, but I think there's concern on the board that people are using, or developers may use a PUD to get around certain zoning requirements. And that's just a concern, that's a professional concern that I have, and I can't speak for the other members, but like you said, the increasing uses of PUDs. Now, the PUDs I've always been working with were for CRAs and other developments where you're taking a blighted area and you're turning it back into something that's more desirable. And that has always historically worked in the past, but that was in the last century. So I'm in the space program now.
Well, and I understand the county is redoing the PUD ordinance. I've seen it, I haven't evaluated it fully, but there may be something in that changes what we're doing now for the future. I don't know.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions from the board?
No, I just like variety being two things, but that's okay. I guess variety definitions have changed, but at least it's more than one. So that's, yeah, than the last one. So, yeah, I think this one is a little bit different than the one that's to the south because of the character of the area that's almost directly to the north. And you can see where this area is going. You know, it's a little bit different than being south of Willowbrook. So I don't really see an issue. John, was there any? That's what I know. That's what I'm saying. It's the good. Yeah, the other one was south of Willowbrook, and I had a concern about the transitional zoning, but this one is north, and it seems like it's almost directly adjacent to compatible land use and density. So, John, was there anything else out of that student accommodation plan that was just passed by the board that we need to know about, other than the summary that you gave, the very brief summary you gave us?
It's a ongoing process. They're going to have another meeting within the next couple of months, but essentially what they did was they brought all the developers together with the school board folks, or the school district people, to discuss the impact that all these developments were going to have. So they're going to try and resolve all the issues that are going to come up. With 33,000 new residences there is quite significant, and it's all in the county. So I have nothing more I have the minutes to the meeting if you'd like to get copies of that.
I was just curious to see where our school board member, do you keep us abreast of what's going on at the school board, how it affects what we're doing here? But besides that, I don't have any more comments or questions.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm good.
So, Mr. Hopkins, I was at that meeting, and I just want to clarify for y'all, the most significant developments occurring in the city of Palm Bay. There's this property, and there's the other one that just went to the board a few weeks ago. Those are the only two developments currently that are in there. So I would probably say around 30,000 of those homes are in the city of Palm Bay. So with that being said, I just want to make sure that this board understands that the preliminary development plan that Ms. Rezanka submitted to you all at the beginning of her presentation is different from the one that was put in your packet. And the major difference that you all should know about is that the plan is showing 40-foot wide lots. In the original plan that was presented to you, there were only 50-foot wide lots.
Okay.
And we can stipulate that they're all 50-foot lots. There was 4 or 5 in my packet. I apologize if I've given the wrong one, but it's intended at 50-foot lots.
As long as the 40s are on the interior, I don't have a problem with that at all. So as long as the larger lots around the perimeter, that's fine. But I'm looking at the South Palm Bay Area Future Development Map that was put together by the school board based on all these projects. I'm seeing 13 projects, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 projects that are in this area affecting what's happening with the school board. So, and they're not all in the county. They're in the city, they're in Grantville Cary, they're in the county. So there's a lot going on. So I think that it would be nice to maybe kept abreast of what's happening. But I don't know if you have this map, but I could share it if anybody wants to see it.
Mr. Chair, one last thing. If Ms. Rezanka is requesting 40-foot wide lots, if she can come to the podium and request that part of the request, we can add that to the board packet.
The owner is saying yes, 40-foot lots would like to be in there.
So 40s and 50s?
40s and 50s.
40s on the interior?
Yes, sir. That could be
As shown
fine.
on the plan?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant before I take it to the audience? Does anybody in the audience want to speak for or against this item? Okay. Bringing it back to the board, Ms. Kim, come on back up. I need a motion.
I'll make a motion that we accept the future land use requests as presented.
Second. Okay, now this is going to be for item G3, correct?
Yes, future land use only, yes.
Okay, a motion by Bruce, a second by, Mr. Ben. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item G3 passed unanimously. I need a motion for G4.
So G4 is the planning designation to PUD, correct?
Yes.
Okay, I'll make a motion that is there any conditions of that, just the PUD as presented, for the plan presented?
There was, Mr. Moya.
There were some waivers too, correct?
So I can read those, we can read those into the record if you so desire. When we read it into the record, we added those just for you to consider.
Okay.
So the conditions are as follows. So there's, the proposed development should be capped at 3 units per acre.
Okay.
Number 2, the developer should provide the storage of campers, travel trailers, recreational trailers, and vehicles, boats, or boat trailers, and other similar vehicles on the single-family lots. Approval of the requested waiver from Section 62-1446D3B to allow residential structures 2 stories or less, a minimum building separation of 10 feet rather than the 15 feet shall be accompanied by usable open space for recreation with more than a tot lot. And what I would do is add another condition to that, a waiver to allow for the 40-foot wide lots. I don't have the code section, but it'll be in the 1400 section of the code. And then number 4, prior to county approval of the construction plan and preliminary plat, the developer shall provide documentation that the city of Palm Bay will approve the project access/connection to Babcock Street and determine that adequate water and sewer services will be available, the development, and will be available prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy.
Thank you. So I make the recommendation for approval with the 4 conditions as just stated.
Second.
Got a motion by Bruce, a second by Deb on items G4. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Those 2 passed unanimously. Now, Ms. Kim, just to reiterate, item G5 and G6 we're tabling until the 12th. Thank you. Item G7.
Mr. Chair, items G7 and G8 are being continued per the request of the applicant.
Okay, item G9.
Item G9 and G10, I will read into the record together. They're companion applications. G9, Alex DeJesus and Rosemary DeJesus and Brandon DeJesus request a small-scale comprehensive plan amendment, 24S.07, from CC and NC to all CC under application number 24SS00007, tax account number 2102561 in District 1. Item G10, Alex DeJesus, Rosemary DeJesus, and Brandon DeJesus request a change of zoning classification from BU1 and AU to all BU2 under application number 24Z00021, tax account number 2102561 in District 1. And these are, although I've read them in together, they need a separate recommendation for each. Thank you.
Okay, is the applicant here? Sir, if you could come to the podium and state your name and address for the record.
Alexis DeJesus, 1900 Corbett Road, Orlando, Florida.
And a little bit about what you're wanting to do, Mr. DeJesus.
The property right now currently is BU1. It allows everything but mobile home sales. And we currently rented it to a gentleman that does mobile home sales and wants to do trailer sales, and he won't. It's not permitted under the allowances.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I have a
Mr.
couple of
Rod.
questions. Hang on a minute. Are you going to have used car sales?
Well, the BU1 allows used car sales.
Okay, I mean, they're going to be used cars, not new cars?
No, it's under the BU1 allows used car sales, but not mobile home sales or RVs or
I
that kind of stuff.
just wonder, what is your plan?
To do to rent it to RV sales and that so forth.
The mobile homes that you're going to have, what manufacturer are you going to be using, do you know?
No, he got a contract with Disney to sell the campers that Disney has at their campground, and there's like 360 units.
No, that was the next question I had. Yours was the article in the paper about the Disney, what was it? Fort Wilderness.
Fort Wilderness,
yes.
That's correct. So he got a contract to remove those and sell them. But they're recreational vehicles. They're on wheels. They're not stationary mobile homes.
Okay. And one last question. Would you be willing to have a binding development plan to restrict the BU2 uses to only automobile and mobile home sales?
What are the other allowances for BU2? That's the only thing that's missing on the article, which is to sell RVs and trailers and mobile homes.
I was just wondering if you'd, because it's got
I don't. No, just allow that, and that's it.
BU2 right across the street.
Some of the things that you can put in a BU2 are dry cleaning plants, ice plants, paint and bobby shops. See, these are things that I don't think I'd like to see in that neighborhood.
In MIMS, there's nothing. There's like
And that's why
it's a
I'd like
ghost
to
town.
have, if you could.
It's a ghost town. It needs everything. Like it needs us to get in there and bring something forward. And the people
Well,
need it.
I live in MIMS.
I know
so-
the people need. Oh, so you were familiar. There's nothing around.
Yep. But nonetheless, I would like not to see those kinds of things. What you're proposing, I don't have a problem with.
Oh, so you're familiar with the mobile homes.
But what I would like is that if you decide you want to sell the property to someone else, and they decide they'd like to put an ice plant or dry cleaning plant, then, they can.
I understand.
That's why I'd like to have a BDP that says you can have only these certain BU2 uses.
Okay.
Like mobile home sales, like U-car sales.
I'm fine with that. Yes. We're fine with just having the mobile home sales and no dry cleaning stuff and anything.
Okay. Staff, can you work with him to come up with the BDP?
Absolutely. What I'm hearing, Mr. Barcher, is that you want to do a BDP to limit to BU1 uses and BU2 uses to automobile sales and mobile home sales.
Yes. Correct. Okay.
So we can work with the applicant to explain the process and what the next steps are for that.
Okay, thank you.
I got a quick question. Of the 4 BU2 properties shown on this map that you gave us, do any of those have a BDP?
Not that we're aware of.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, what about repairs? Are you going to do any
No
repairs?
repairs.
None of
No
them?
repairs, no.
You're going to drag them over from Disney and?
Yes, correct.
Okay. So do you want to allow repairs in case they do need it?
I think we should add that amendment for repairs. Yeah, maybe later on we should add a building and spruce up US 1 there because It's lacking a little bit of everything, You know what I mean?
He's not a fan of MIMS.
Well, I'm a fan of MIMS. We own 2 properties on US 1, so I'm very familiar, and I know that MIMS needs everything. There's no schools. There's nothing there, man.
Oh, there's a school.
It's a brand new school I hear is coming up. Yeah, I heard about it.
Okay, we're already gonna be here till 8 o'clock. Let's get back on track. Mr. Ron, we got a motion with a BDP?
Yes. I so
Oh,
moved.
we haven't even
Sorry,
taken it out to the
I
audience
haven't-
yet.
Hold on, ma'am, hold on 1 second. All right, hold on there. Sir,
Okay.
could you?
Oh,
step
yeah,
down?
of course. Yeah, let her speak.
And is there anyone else want to speak for or against this item after her? Okay, if you could come up, ma'am, and get ready. Ma'am, if you could come get the microphone as close to you as possible and state your name and address for the record.
My name is Karen Rowell. I live at 3427 Andre Road. My property is right behind his property, and it's been like a train wreck since he moved in. These cabins came in, he's cleared it. I get up every morning, I look at 7 dump truck loads of dirt. There's debris. Debris's been buried. I don't know, concrete. It hasn't been a pleasant experience. It's always been residential over there until the people passed away, and now it's turned into commercial. There's no fence. His property buffers adjoins residential areas where there's children. There's been fences damaged and still not repaired, and it's just sitting there. So yes, I oppose it.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, if you could come get as close as you can to that microphone and state your name and address for the record.
Sure. My name is Katie Delaney, and I don't really know too much about this specific project, but just from hearing the conversation that just happened, I wanted to say something about this. I would feel very uncomfortable with just an open BU2 change. I think there needs to be clear boundaries to that if that's done, or I don't know if it's possible to keep it BU1 but then add in the mobile home allowance, mobile home sales allowance maybe to the BU1. I don't know if that's an option as well, but I just had to say some things about MIMS. I know that people who live in MIMS love MIMS and love the way it is. Okay. So yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else want to speak for or against this item? Sir, if you could come back to the podium. Mr. Barcher, do you want to revise your motion or go with it, or?
Could I ask Ron? Ron, have you visited, you live fairly close here, don't you?
Yeah, I drive by there every day.
Oh, okay. Are you satisfied with all the information, additional information you've heard on
Yes, yeah, I
the
mean, it's
development plan?
Yeah, I don't think there's a problem. I mean, if he's doing something that he shouldn't be doing on that property, then I believe that would be a code enforcement issue.
Yeah.
Correct.
And
Yeah, but I don't want to approve a combat zone either. You know what I mean?
We know you're against it, so we've already been there.
But I believe that having the BDP to restrict it to just the sales of these particular items and to do a repair on the house if necessary.
Jeff, have we left anything out of that BDP in light of this information?
Just so you're aware, there is a code enforcement case against the property owner. It's for removal of vegetation without a permit, and that is going through the code enforcement process.
Okay.
So with that, so what I would tell you is that, let me tell you what some of the uses are allowed in BU2. It allows for major automotive repair. It allows for warehousing and outdoor storage. So those are those are the big things, in a zoning official's things to be considered with. As far as the BDP to limit those uses, just be aware that BU1 allows for minor automotive repairs, and so that would be a use that is already allowed on the property. So anything that's listed in the BU1 would also be allowed.
Right. Exactly.
Mr. Chairman, excuse me, is there a fence around your property?
No, there's not a fence right now. Currently, I pulled the permit for the fence to comply with the young lady here.
So
And,
you are going to put a fence up?
God willing, yes. I gotta pick up some more cans and bottles and stuff to comply with her.
Okay. Any buffer requirements on a property like this?
They're during the site plan process, they'll have to provide the appropriate buffering between commercial and residential. Between commercial and commercial, there's no buffer requirements.
Okay. If you can make this a user-friendly development. then-
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have just a quick question. So, where you have commercial against residential, which you have to a portion of the north, all of the east, and all of the south, but also on the east, you have that right-of-way, unimproved right-of-way.
There's a little triangle in the back. Which
There's
is
a dirt
agriculture.
road off, I guess, Andre Road that comes
Andre Road,
down.
yes.
He would be required to put a wall wherever he butts residential, correct? By site
The code,
plan?
yeah, the code requires that if it's adjacent to residential, but if it's right away, then I believe that there's a separate code part of that, 15 feet?
We're
Right,
asking
but yeah, so what I would think would be appropriate is, obviously, he's not going to access that dirt road unless he paves the whole thing.
Absolutely.
So if he's got to put the wall, then that wall should continue along that right-of-way. And he should not be able to allow, but add in the BDP that he cannot access that road and that we'd have to put a wall there.
We can certainly
So
add
that
that
way he's
condition part of the
walled in.
BDP.
That way he's walled in.
There's no
around all the
entrance to
residential.
Andre Road to that property.
Right, I understand, but, somebody could come in there and pave it and access it. I don't think we want to be bringing trailers back through there. And I think it would make sense to have a complete wall to completely separate them from the residential use to the east.
We're putting a fence all the way around
Well,
the Andre Road.
The code
property.
requires a wall.
So just so I understand, so when we write up the report, is that to a BDP to limit the uses to BU1 and within the BU2 zoning, automobile sales and mobile home sales, and require a 15-foot buffer along the rear of the property?
No, that he has to put the required 6-foot wall.
Okay.
Along the entire.
Along this.
Even
okay.
along the right-of-way.
Okay.
Along that entire east boundary.
Okay.
And
Okay.
anywhere else that abuts residential.
I'm good with that.
And what does the buffer require?
The buffer is whatever the code says the buffer has to be.
Okay.
But the code would there'd be a hole in the wall where you abut the road, and I don't think that would be appropriate. So, that's all.
I'm unclear about this wall.
Come on.
That will be later, ma'am.
It'll be anywhere
Yeah.
it abuts a residential use.
Pardon?
Anywhere it abuts a residential property, which is all the east,
To the east?
all the south, and that little bit of the north, the northmost piece.
Well, I'm to the east.
So
and
that
I'm
would, so there'd
I'm
be a
to
wall
the
between
east.
you and him.
So the wall's gonna face my property.
Yes,
My
ma'am.
property's gonna face that wall,
Yes, ma'am.
and it's gonna be how tall?
6 foot.
6
block.
foot?
Yeah. Yeah. That way you're not looking into the back of his
When you
building.
say wall, is it like a
Well-
fence,
It's supposed to be a wall per code.
a wall?
Mhm.
Okay, I guess I can be happy with that.
I
So-
made the motion. Do we have a second?
Okay, you can second.
Got a motion by Ron, a second by Robert. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passed unanimously.
Have a nice evening.
All right, thank you.
That was.
Oh, wait, we need
that
it.
was-
That was
that was-
G9, you got G10.
G9.
Oh.
Need a motion for G10.
So the.
Yes.
So the.
And motion
Well, so the BDP goes with the zoning, not the land use.
Correct, that would have
So
been
the-
for
the-
item G10.
Yeah.
We should have, the last motion should have had no BDP mentioned. That is for the land use only.
Right.
The BDP
Yeah. Now the motion for
recommendations go with this
G9.
one. Okay.
What do we need to do?
Do we need to redo the first motion? Yes, let's redo the land use motion. I'll make the motion that we approve the land use as requested.
Second.
Okay.
Okay, a motion by Bruce, a second by Deb on the land use motion.
Yes.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passed unanimously.
Now Ron can make the motion.
Now, Ron, for the BDP and the,
Okay, yes, and we, for the BDP, that restricts the sales, that restricts the BU2 uses and has the wall along the residential areas.
To the east.
I'm sorry, what?
To the east.
To the east. There's also residential to the south.
okay, a motion by Ron on item G10, a second by Robert. All those with the BDP and the specifications, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item G10 passed unanimously. Item G11.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item G11 is Put It In Me Storage LLC, requests a small-scale comprehensive plan amendment 24S.04 from IND to community commercial. Application number is 24SS00004. Tax account number is 2322557, located in District 1.
Okay, is the applicant here?
Good evening. My name is Vaheed Teimouri with Teimouri & Associates, 32 East New Haven Avenue, Melbourne. Before I start, one thing about PUD. I live in a subdivision called Brandywine Estates. That's PUD. It's all residential. This was developed a long time ago, but that's another example of PUD. That aside, we're here to downzone this property from industrial to BU2. It was BU2. It was zoned industrial before. Now it's downzoned again. The only reason is there's some quirky requirement in our industrial that any type of storage has to be behind a building. Doesn't make much sense at all, but it is what it is, and we had to go to BU2 in order to get any type of storage for boats and RVs, even though we have 8-foot walls in the front. And the code just basically says if you have a half a mile long property along property line, along the right of way, you're supposed to have half a mile of building in order to store anything in front of it. So that's where we are. We just want to basically use it for RVs and boat storage and some mini storage. And that's all there is to it. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
All right. Mr. Vaheed, while you're right there, stay put real quick. Hopefully this is going to be easy. Does anyone want to speak for or against this item? Great. So seeing that, I bring it back to the board. We got any questions for the applicant?
I have just a statement to make. I think we have too much mini storage here in the county, and we need industrial because of the space program. We have 362 public storage facilities in this county serving 700,000 residents. In Houston, where my home office is, we have 406 for 6 million people. Something's wrong, and I don't like to see more storage. I think we're building too many of them, and we may be accumulating a lot of junk and putting it in storage, but I don't believe that we need another self-storage facility here, so I would vote against it.
All right.
Mr.
Seeing
Chairman?
that, do we have any other questions for the applicant?
Yeah, I have a comment. With people building a lot of houses on 40-foot lots, they're going to need storage.
Yes.
They're putting their boats on those same lots in that development. I haven't figured out how they're going to do that
I don't
yet
know how
either.
they're going to do that. I mean,
The primary use of this is going to be boats and RVs. They only have very small section of, if you can, because we really put that building in there because they told us we needed a building. We really don't want any building. Zoning requires us to put a building up there. So it's not our doing. We don't want any mini storage. We just want boats and RVs. And boats and RVs are not an inexpensive item. Not everybody has them, and they can't store a 40-foot bus on your property anymore.
But is this outdoor storage?
It is.
So you only need a building for administration?
That's correct. But since they said the initial step was 300 square foot building, and we're happy to go back to that and put 300 square foot building. But the point was you had to put the building all along the right of way in order to put RVs and boats behind it. Doesn't make a bit of sense, but that's
Is there a
the
variance that could be made on that?
No.
Really?
Can't have a variance for use. Yeah.
That sucks.
Can't do a variance for use.
Somebody's got to look into that code. I'm not in the business of changing codes. They don't get changed that easily, but that just doesn't make it common sense, that's all.
Yeah.
Be that as it may.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I move that we recommend approval of this land use change.
Second.
Bruce beat you this time, Robert. We got a motion by Ron, a second by Bruce. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Yay.
One opposed. Thank you, Mr. Vaheed. Okay, item G12.
Item G12 is Richard Jones requests a change of zoning classification from GU to RU-1-9, application numbers 24Z00006, tax account numbers 2716623, located in District 5.
Is the applicant here? Sir, if you could come to the podium and state your name and address for the record.
Yes, sir. I'm Richard Jones, 720 Unity Drive.
A little bit about what you're wanting to do here.
Okay. So I contacted the planning department last fall and asked them to confirm my zoning and if I'm able to rebuild, and I learned very quickly the property is legally established but not conforming. Is GU right now, requires 5 acres to build. Trina Gilliam and staff has been very helpful with helping me navigate the process. So I'm just trying to change from GU to RU-1-9. My property is more than big enough for RU-1-9. I wish it was 5 acres, I'd stay GU, but it's not.
All right. Well, sir, right there. Does anyone in the audience want to speak for or against this item? That's really good news. All right, seeing that, I bring it back to the board.
Yeah, I'll motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, item G12, motion by Bruce, a second by Deb. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passed unanimously.
Thank y'all very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Item G13.
Jamie Kent and Carlene Sapp-Kent and Jermaine Kent requested change of zoning classification from AU to RU-1-11, application numbers 24Z00013, tax account numbers 2103548, located in District 1.
Is the applicant here?
We wore him out.
All right, well, seeing that, I bring it back to the board. Any questions?
Do we need a motion to table?
Well, I think we can still vote on it without the applicant, correct?
You can vote to deny or approve or.
Yeah, because, I mean, it seems pretty simple.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Item G13, a motion to approve by Bruce, a second by Brian. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item G13 passed unanimously. Item G14.
Table to the end.
Agenda. I want to read 15 into the record.
Correct.
Okay.
Sorry. My
Scott,
bad.
G15 is Scott Martin requests to change the zoning classification from BU-1 and RU-2-15 to all RU-2-15. Application number is 24Z00015, tax account number is 2520270, located in District 2.
Okay, is the applicant here? Sir, if you could state your name and address for the record.
My name is Scott Martin. I live at 335 Jack Drive, Cocoa Beach.
And a little bit about what you're wanting to do here, Mr. Martin.
Yes, I have 2 lots. They're kind of small. I've owned it for like 25 years. I've decided to build something personal for myself. So because one side's only BU1, the other's RU215, I wanted to make them both RU215 so I could build a place for myself and just 2 other units. The back side is already RU215. And everything around me is RU215 or RU45, all around my property.
All right. Is there anyone in the audience want to speak for or against this item? All right, seeing that, I bring it back to the board. Any questions for the applicant?
Motion to approve.
Second. Got a motion by Bruce on item G15 to approve, a second by Brian. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item G15 passed unanimously.
Thank all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Item G16.
Item G16 is Brevard County Board of County Commissioners requests to change the zoning classification from AU with a CUP and GML to all GMLI with the removal of a CUP. Application number is 24Z00017, tax account number is 2500007, located in District 2.
All right.
So what I can do, Mr. Chair, is Brevard County is the applicant on this. So this is a rezoning to bring the property up into compliance. Back in 1999, the code was updated to include subclassifications of the GML zoning district. And so as the sheriff's office wants to redevelop and develop the property, the subclassification is needed. So the I stands for institutional, so that there's also a small portion of the AU that would be a cleanup as well.
I got it. Jeff, that parcel, at one time, was that 3 separate individual parcels?
Are you talking about the one, the
Yeah,
tip?
because this one we're bringing back in as a triangle, and then you have, I think, 2 rectangles there.
Yeah, it's one big giant triangle.
Yeah, okay, that's what you're gonna do?
Yeah, it's the whole, the whole property. Let me get you the acreage for it.
Yeah.
It's 48.92 acres.
Yes, sir, okay.
Bruce, you were doing good.
Oh, motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion by Bruce on item G.
Mr. Chair, you have a
I'm
public
sorry.
comment? Yeah.
Oh,
And
I thought you already did that. I was waiting for you.
I did do it, I thought. Okay. Sir, if you could state your name and address for the record.
Yes, sir. My name is Robert Bray. I live at 560 Chandler Street in West Cocoa. And my concern about this, I know this is the property we're talking about, is the sheriff farm. We've been discussing this for a while about the gun range. But my question is the rezoning, they're going to build more gun range, or are they going to redo that, or what's the whole process, what they're planning on doing with the property?
Well, now, as far as the design, I don't have all that.
My understanding, the sheriff's office is not touching or expanding the gun range that's already existing on the property.
Okay.
I was led to believe they're gonna have more vegetation, meaning fruits and vegetables and stuff. That's what somebody told me. I heard more of that than the gun business, to be honest with you.
Because you don't live there. I hear the gun every day. We've been fighting this for a while.
I know
guess
it
my
pretty
thing-
well.
Right. We don't want to add more guns.
Are you in Catalina?
Yes, I am.
And so
Right by the
give me a
range.
little credit. I know that.
Yes, yes. So I guess my question is this rezoning is going to make it more louder than what it is, I would guess. So what would be the thing?
Not that we're aware of, correct?
The noise ordinance is still in effect, that it still has to meet county code. Again, this rezoning will not have any changes to the gun range as it's already been permitted and is operating. The change will allow for the sheriff's office to construct a driving range, which will allow, for automobiles, it's to train the deputies on how to drive their vehicles.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can I tell this gentleman it's a house cleaning issue more than anything?
Absolutely, it's a
That's
house
all.
cleaning issue.
You're not going to get bazookas or not.
Thank you.
All right, sir, thank you.
Stingers.
Okay, item.
That was a motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion by Bruce, a second by Brian. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passed unanimously. Item G17.
Item G17 is Barrows West Suite Developers LLC requests a CUP for the on-premise consumption of alcohol in a PUD zoning classification. Application number is 24Z00019. Tax account number is 3030134, located in District 4.
Is the applicant here? Sir, if you could state your name and address for the record.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Mickey Grindstaff. I'm with the law firm of Schutz & Bowen, 300 South Orange Avenue, Suite 1600 in Orlando. I'm here tonight on behalf of my partner, Marbet Lewis, who is the attorney in Miami who actually represents this owner of this property, who's building a 4-story hotel as we speak. And it's substantially constructed. It's not yet completed, but in the original approvals, they did not address the liquor permit, and we're here tonight asking for a conditional use permit to allow on consumption. I think it's the 4 COP, with which alcohol within the bars, the restaurants, by the pool, and in the sundry shop.
All right. Hold on one. Is anyone in the audience want to speak for or against this item? Seeing that, I bring it back to the board.
We haven't denied one yet, so I'll motion to approve.
Motion by Bruce on item G17, a second by Deborah. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That passed unanimously.
Thank you, sir. Thank you all.
Thank you. Item G18.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item G18 is Walter Chlewicki requests to change the zoning classification from RU1-13 to RU2-4 with a BDP. Application number is 24Z00020. Tax account number is 2624912, located in District 4. The proposed BDP will limit the density to 2 units.
Okay, is the applicant here? All right, seeing that, I bring it back to the
Well, you
board.
want to see if there's anybody else out there?
Yes.
Yeah, I think they want to speak about this. Yeah.
All right.
If there's going to be public speaking and there's
Then
no
we need it.
applicant, then I'll make the motion that we table this to the next meeting.
Second.
Okay, got a motion to table item G18 by Bruce, a second by John. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Then that motion, that passed unanimously. I'm sorry, ma'am, hold on.
Can you, Jeff, you want to give them just a brief explanation of what the request was entailing?
Yeah, what I'll do is I'll have Trina go and talk to him, and she can explain what's going on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item G14.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item G14 is the Seminary Covenant Community Inc. request to change the zoning classification from INL to RU2-15. Application number is 24Z00014. Tax account number is 2501136, located in District 2.
Mr. Bruce, you know the drill.
I do. And thank you, members of the board of the P&Z. I usually don't do this, but it was a super long agenda with a lot of important items on it. So breaking my tradition by presenting this and also being on the board for the other items.
And we thank you.
Thanks. So this one is really a great problem. I'm really super proud to be part of this. So we're representing a group called Wings of Grace. And they, what they do is they build affordable housing and they house underprivileged youth. We have developed a model that we're building, the first of its kind in the city of Melbourne. It's just received site plan approval and is getting ready to break ground for 24 units of affordable housing that is specifically geared for youth terming out of foster care. So what happens currently is when teens turn 18 and they are no longer funded by the the parents kick them out and they're basically homeless. And it's a surprise to them, it's a shock to them. So what Wings of Grace has done, who's a nonprofit organization, is they partnered with Ways for Life, who's been working with teens aging out of foster care for quite some time. So now what they're doing is they've established this prototype of units where they house them temporarily, they train them at the site, and they basically get them ready for life if they're not prepared. So they train them how to get a job, how to interview, how to take care of themselves, how to do their finances, how to do all this. So they found another spot. They want to build these all over the county, so they found a spot in Merritt Island, and that's this site right here. So what they want to do is get it rezoned so they can actually put this development in this location, and then hopefully get another one and do this all over the county. So that's really what we want to do. So if you have any questions, we'll be glad to answer them for you.
Bruce, in curiosity, I mean, where do you get the money to fund this?
Fortunately, I don't have to be the one that finds it, but they do get grants to do these things. And right now, Wings of Grace has scattered homes all over the county that they do this right now, but now they're going to actually put it into a basically a multifamily development where they can be there on site and provide the services on site for them.
Does it take into account, I guess I'm being a little nosy here, but does it take into account perpetual maintenance and stuff?
Yes, yes, sir. Yeah, they want this to be long-term.
Bruce.
All right.
Can I go?
Yes, sir. Mr. John, as long as it's a zoning question.
It is. I'm on the Affordable Housing Council here.
Okay.
And we've seen projects like this come forward, and they're needed. The problem with the youth, they're 18 years old, they got no place to go, and we need properties like this. So I'm hoping that they'll do a good job and that they will put up some nice buildings, have nice training for the people so they can become productive citizens.
That's the whole idea. Yes,
thank you.
Mr. Bruce, I got to take it out to the audience real quick. Does anyone in the audience want to speak
Mr.
for or
Chairman.
against this item? Then, ma'am, if you could come up here and get as close as you can to the microphone and state your name and address for the record.
I've been waiting. Hi, everybody. How's it? Good?
Yes.
Okay. My name's Elizabeth Michaelman. I know some of you. I live on Merritt Island. I live within the zone of reason around this development. I don't have a single problem with what is said about what the facilities to be used for. I have a major problem where it is. This property is a floodplain. It is zoned as such. A portion of this property is considered coastal hazard region. It is across the street from Jefferson. It's nestled lovingly between Jefferson and Tropical Elementary. We're a small, tiny island. I would love to see affordable housing. I just don't think this property is geared for that particular project. Now, I wanted to go through this, and I'm seeing that based on the application that I pulled off, I'm seeing 45 homes. They want to go to RU, 215. So that is the opportunity to build 45 homes on this property, if I'm not mistaken. It says so on the application. I have a concern with that as well. The traffic, This is an island, and some of you live here, so you already know the challenges, especially in South Merritt Island. We have 2 byways. We've got Tropical Trail, we got Courtney, and then we get 1, Tropical Trail. As someone who lives in the area, I already know the traffic issues at school times. Going to, coming from. I already know the problems with 520, which, by the way, in case anybody wants to be made aware of the problem, 520 West, 520 East, both sides were picked as the top 5 for most congested byways. If we have storms, and I'm not even getting into what a floodplain is designed for. If we have storms and we want to get off the island, according to emergency management, it's somewhere in the range of 66 hours to try to get to safety. When do we stop looking at what we think we need and look at what we have and protect what we have? We're a barrier island. Our job is to protect mainland. That's what we're here for. They're doing more studies about it. And our best universities are doing these studies, and they're interesting. They're really, really interesting. I'm against it. I'd like to know more about it. I got a chance to meet the gentleman when we were out there to have a discussion. This is not what he told me out there. Okay, I think it's great. My girlfriend but she is a foster group home right next door to me. I don't have a problem with that. She's not on a floodplain. She's not in an area that I think is very, very sensitive. I think the flooding, there's risk to flooding with the school. You got to start weighing what's more important, the kids that are going to school and the possible flooding, and how many kids end up in this program. Do we have another, it sounds like this is a great organization. Maybe we have another opportunity to do something in something that already exists. I hope you hear me. I mean, I can get into the environmental aspect of it. I was supposed to have 20 more people here. Some are going to talk about the traffic. You got me. And I'm just asking very, very politely, please consider, what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Anybody else want to speak for or against this item? All right, seeing that, I bring it back to the board.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to reiterate what I had on the very first set of agendas about evacuations, about coastal construction, high coastal high hazard areas. This does abut it. We are talking about Merritt Island. We are talking about a single access for evacuation, and half of it is in the FEMA flood zone, and it's a zone AE. So I've fished bodies out of the water doing search and rescue. It's not fun. So I do agree with the young lady that the extremely noble commitment here. I just think it's the wrong spot.
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Yes, sir. Mr. Bryan.
Bruce, it's 43 units, not 45, is that correct?
That would be the max that we could possibly build, but we don't propose to build that many. I don't know what the number is, but it's not going to be 45.
And it says multifamily, so is it going to be townhome?
No, it's going to be a complex. It's going to be a housing complex, very, I guess, institutional looking kind of thing, where they all have their rooms, but they have common kitchen, common laundry, common facilities. They have training rooms. They have all that stuff. So it's not townhouses or anything like that.
How many buildings is it going to be?
I don't know how many units we're going to be able to fit on the site, but
There'll be multiple buildings?
It should be. It's my understanding they're going to take the building that we did in Melbourne at 24 and put it on the site. That's my understanding. Maybe they might try to add a couple units, but I don't think we're going to get anywhere near 45.
What is that, one in Melbourne, one single building or multiple?
It's one single building, yep. Sure.
I want to thank everybody. I'm Pastor Paul Rossbury. I'm the chairman of Seminary Covenant Community, and Wings of Grace is one of our ministries. We have 30 ministries up and down the coast. We acquired this property in 2012 from an existing church. At that time, the roofs were gone, and we've renovated it to that point. Currently, when we're talking about this aging out of foster care, there's an education building that's right next to the sanctuary, which is about 4,800 square feet. There's a parsonage also on the property. And so what we're talking about is maybe taking the Ed building, which is already existing on higher ground, using that as a possible building that would house the youth as well as maybe some other facilities, and maybe where the parsonage is extended over to there. So we really don't know what the site plan is going to be. We don't know the numbers yet, but we want to move forward with this as quickly as possible. Then maybe, and I shared with the lady, I said, I will meet with them and have them come and talk to us, because we are in the neighborhood. We want to be friendly. And I'm working every way I can so that we can help our county to build what we need. Right now, we need over 300 housing units for aging and foster care kids. Now, every place we're going to look, we're going to have to come back to you and see if that's the right property. So I thank you for your time, and I hope that you'll help us move forward, because that's what we need to do for the whole county. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So, Mr. Bruce, so it sounds to me like we're going to utilize some of the existing buildings and maybe add one if needed.
Yes, sir. Well, obviously, we're going to use the buildings if it's already there, yes.
Okay. All right, any other questions for the applicant?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
I got a motion by Brian, a second by Deb. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Mr. Robert opposed.
Thank you.
That almost passed unanimously.
That's Bruce.
I believe that's it. Is that correct?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second, right on the money.
Second, third, fourth, and fifth.
Good job.
Long.
Earned our money today.
The opinions expressed by any member of the public during any period of public comment do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the Board of County Commissioners of Brevard County, Florida, Space Coast Government Television, or the program sponsor, and are solely those of the presenter. The Board of County Commissioners of Brevard County, Florida, Space Coast Government Television, and the program sponsor hereby expressly disclaim any and all responsibility or liability for any defamatory or slanderous statements expressed by any member of the public during any such period.